If I had to sum up my favorite part of my job, it would definitely be talking about TV shows that everybody forgot about. Real talk, who remembers this show, the 90210 spin-off that aired between 2008 and 2013? You can't tell me you don't remember this show because it was all the rage. I grew up loving this show. It was one of my faves. I spent hundreds of hours preparing, watching, crafting this video for you guys. And seriously, how did a show that started off so strong end up face planting? Today we're doing a full recap and analysis of everything that went wrong. The characters, the drama, the relationships, everything we love about it. Basically, we're autopsying a CW show because why not? I did talk about the show like a year ago. I made a video about it, but since I've taken it down and I'm redoing it now because that's what happens when you rewatch a show. You notice a bunch of things that you just didn't see before. And now I just have so much more to say. There was an era when 90210 was known for actually being quite good. The magic period, the especially good part, was definitely seasons 1B through to the end of season 3 when Rebecca Sinclair was running the show because she just knew what was up. It was so good. I cannot get over it. Suddenly the show had actual storylines, there was some character development, it wasn't all about romance, there were some genuinely interesting storylines. But then in 2011, it was announced that she would actually step down as executive producer when her contract ended. And that was when everything went downhill because the show was handed over to Paddy Carr and Lara Olsen, who previously worked on Life Unexpected. And there's nothing wrong with them at all. They're great, but they didn't bring the right vibes to the function for 90210. And that's when season 4 happened. Season 4. You know what? We're gonna talk about that later. Watching this show back, I realized something both hilarious and horrifying. Number one, not only does everyone hook up with everyone, like literally everyone in the main cast has some sort of romantic relationship with each other. There's a lot of like cross-pollination going on, but also everyone is so hypersexualized. Like they're meant to be 15, 16-year-olds and they're just very, like they're played by much older actors, so you forget how young they're supposed to be. But you know what? I still watched all 5 seasons for you guys and I would do it again. Season 1. Now I need to take a moment, a respectful, dramatic moment to talk about season 1, in particular season 1B, because my goodness, this was like the peak of teen drama TV. That was the best this show has ever been, hands down. This is the show that I like to remember before it all turned to shit. I love also the pilot. I love the ending of the pilot with all the kids playing around together in the ocean. It was just so fun. The vibes are just immaculate. And I love the warm glow. The camera has this filter where it's slightly hazy, so everything is just drowned in this beautiful, soft, dreamy, hazy light. This was the moment the show knew who everyone was. Annie is this more developed character. We see her loving her friendship with Naomi but feeling conflicted because she has these feelings for Ethan, and then getting to know Naomi, ending things with Ethan, and it's just such great development for her. We have Adrianna and Navid together in the early days when their relationship was still super sweet. And we have Liam, where he was actually a strong, well-developed, well-rounded character, not just some pretty boy for the show to ogle at, but someone well-developed, someone with a dark past, someone haunted by his very stressful family life, an actual bad boy.
All right, everybody, this is Liam Court. Make him feel at home. Or at school. Anyway, carry on.
Please, take a seat. Josie, let's have at this equation.
He had an edge, he had a kind of mystery and charisma to him, and chemistry in those very early day scenes with Annie where they weren't officially together, but you could tell they had this undeniable, unexplainable attraction to each other, and it was super good. Also, another thing is the adults, the parents, were actually so grounded. They were a part of the story. Like Debbie, and Harry, they're involved in the kids' lives.
Mom? Dad?
Annie?
Ethan? Oh.
Mrs. Wilson? Principal Wilson?
We see that 90210, the show, but also Beverly Hills itself is starting to corrupt the characters. Dixon and Annie start out as these kind of goody two-shoes kids, but they start molding themselves in order to fit into the environment, even if it just starts out as small as sneaking out and breaking their curfew. Adrianna's story is messy and heartbreaking at the same time. She was actually really well written and compelling in season 1, and she had a relationship with Navid you actually wanted to root for.
Oh,
Guess who?
soft hands, velvet voice, Megan Fox.
Oh my god.
It felt raw and beautiful, especially her having to give up her baby. It was sad, but it felt realistic. Even with Naomi, she was a super cool character because you could see that she has everything, money, beauty, status, and yet she's so lonely and nobody understands her, you know, and nobody cares about her. Even Dixon was good in season 1 because we see him exploring his identity as a black guy living in a predominantly white neighborhood and his adoption, and it was honestly really compelling. Silva has an amazing storyline where she learns that she's bipolar, but she finds out through a very traumatizing incident through a bipolar episode where she doesn't understand what's going on and why she feels the way that she feels. Season 1 was a little bit lost and a bit all over the place because it was obvious the showrunners weren't really clear exactly on what they were doing and where they were going with it, but in season 1B the show really finds its footing. For me, another huge highlight upon rewatching season 1 is actually Harry, because he's actually a good dad, not a deadbeat. He genuinely cares about his kids. He lied to them about having a son, and Annie gets really upset, sneaks out, gets drunk, and rather than being mad, her dad just comes and picks her up and carries her away from the party. I loved his protective instincts over her, and she describes herself as always viewing him as her hero growing up.
How is the new brother? I was expecting a full debriefing last night.
That's what you're calling it? Debriefing?
The family unit actually feels real and strong, and we really miss that in the later seasons because honestly it was like the best part. Naomi's sister Jen, oh my goodness, I completely forgot how insane and twisted and psychopathic she is, but she scared me so much in season 1, but also that's part of what made it so entertaining. For me, the only real weakness, I suppose, of season 1 was how misguided it was and continued to be regarding the character of Kelly and Ryan. They always felt like such awkward additions to the show. I guess Kelly was there to bring back a sense of nostalgia for the OG 90210, but no one really knows what she's doing there. And same with Ryan, like he's lovely, but the shenanigans he gets up to in season 1 don't really fit in with everything else that's going on. And like his relationship with a cop who's trying to bust drug dealers, so she goes in disguise pretending to be a student and then starts dating Ryan, was honestly really uncomfortable, and it just felt like completely ridiculous.
Ryan.
Hey. I know, weird that I'm here. I'm not a stalker. I felt bad about my comment, the comment. So, I wanted to bring you these.
Even the recurring Brenda and Kelly storyline I found hilarious because again, it's brought back for a sense of nostalgia, these two interacting. But to me, it's so obvious that they just hate each other, and this will never not be funny to me. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to force these two into scenes, but every time I see them together, I want to laugh so bad because it's like they're forcing this idea that we're meant to believe these two are actually friends, but like they can barely look at each other. And it's so funny because the show's trying so hard to convince us that these two really get along and love each other, but their body language is just screaming like, get me out of here. Like I would rather throw myself off a bridge than like hang out with you for one more second. They seem to despise each other, and that's just even more funny to me in a way. But the plot was so catastrophically out there that I couldn't help but just love it.
Sorry, I was looking for Kelly.
Yeah, you're in the right place. She's just putting Sammy to bed. I'm her friend Brenda. I just got into town. We've been catching up.
Somehow, even though it's crazy altogether, it just worked out into this perfect early 2000s fever dream. A mess, but like still, it's an entertaining mess. Like that's why we loved it, right? And same with season 2. It was honestly really, really good. Rebecca Sinclair brought in a whole new set, amazing costume design, like amazing. Naomi's dress was crazy good in the season 2 finale. Like she looked insane. Naomi at the snowball, insane. Like the makeup, everything was just giving. We get way more scenes at the beach, so it actually feels like California. Everything was revamped. Like the girls' costumes in the first episode of season 2, oh my goodness, they look insanely good. Like everyone is just like slaying.
Hello? Hello?
And it's the most obvious, this makeover, when it comes to Annie and Annie's development, because she was always a little bit annoying for a lot of people in the beginnings of season 1, but in season 2 she's fully launched into like protagonist mode, and she's given a really strong trauma and inner conflict where you really root for her to succeed. Everything was rebooted and the change was really obvious. New writing staff, new producing director, new director of photography, new aesthetic. It was just super, super well done, and the improvement is noticeable. It also gave, I think unintentionally, maybe intentionally, I don't know, but it gave a lot more of a wealthy vibe, that you could actually believe these were rich kids because of the set. When we have like a yacht party, a boat party, the horse race, the Hollywood event for the prom where everyone goes to the red carpet, it just has a very specific, very like chic, rich California kids vibe that season 1 didn't have as much, which I really liked.
If it were up to me, under 18s wouldn't be allowed to spend time at the club without parental supervision.
Well, if it were up to me, over 50s wouldn't be allowed to wear sleeveless shirts.
Basically, everyone looks great. Everyone looks expensive, even Silver. And season 2 is also darker. It's heavier, it's more realistic, but it was really, really well done, especially the theme of bullying. But my main issue was it felt a little bit too misogynistic for my liking. Basically, all the students, that includes Dixon, Annie's own brother, ice her out because they're annoyed they have to attend summer school because she called the cops on them at that party and because she allegedly slept with Liam. They treat Annie like she committed some sort of federal offense when in fact she literally did nothing wrong, and she was traumatized because, I don't know if you guys will have forgotten, but I hope not. If you do remember that incredible season 1 finale, everyone was convinced that Liam and Annie slept together, even though she said over and over again that she never slept with Liam. For some reason, like nobody believes her because she's done it once before. I have no idea. And then some random kid throws water in Annie's face. Someone else says, "You're not welcome here, get out." Everyone laughs and basically Naomi boos her out of there. Annie was completely traumatized by this event because suddenly everyone in the school hated her, especially because earlier already they thought that she gave away the location of the after prom party due to this misunderstanding. So already the other kids were being a bit salty with her. So it was just like awful to see. Incidents like that involving social isolation and bullying can be extremely traumatizing. Keep in mind, okay, it's deeply, deeply traumatizing when something like that happens to you. And my issue with that is it's just so sad that everyone is just shutting her out, even her own brother in season 2 and basically for the whole season.
Maybe at one time. Not anymore.
She ratted out the party.
No, I didn't. No one wants you here. Why are you still here?
Get out of my house.
They do this a lot where they just shun each other. They do the same thing with Adrianna in season 4. They do the same thing with Naomi in season 3 and season 2 when they think she's lying about being assaulted. Everyone at some point in the friend group starts shunning everyone out. And what really annoys me is that no one ever shuns Silver, even when she does so many things wrong throughout the show. She never has an experience where she's excluded from the friend group because apparently just everyone gives her a free pass. Like, I don't get it. But anyway, Annie is the target. People can't get over it. They're just picking on her. And the whole storyline with Mark is atrocious because he basically kissed her and then took a topless photo and it's leaked around the school. So Naomi leaks it. That's literally child pornography. Mark doing that of her is basically sexual assault. These are actual crimes and it's treated as some kind of joke.
I'm sending out that text. The evidence was all there. I don't know what I was thinking.
And Annie forgave them way too easily. Like, these girls are all ganging up on her, including, might I add, Adrianna and Silver, her old friends. They're all taking Naomi's sides. So that really bothered me. Another storyline I didn't like was Adrianna suddenly being gay. Like, no, it was bi. She was bi for like a few episodes, but it had no emotional depth, and then they just moved on as if it never meant anything. Then we have Mr. Cannon, a new teacher at West Bev, genuinely the most terrifying character in the show. He gives me chills every single time I watch him. He had an uncomfortable experience with Naomi, actually, where she was being rebellious and rude, her usual self, where she doesn't respect authority, and she begged him when he punished her for it to let her back in the blaze and said, I'd do anything. She has a flirty personality. She says things in a weird way sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. But he immediately jumped to, oh, are you suggesting to sleep with me? Because that would be entirely inappropriate. And later, Naomi was just really pissed that he wouldn't let her back in the blaze, and so she sort of blurted out that he sexually assaulted her. Unfortunately, the lie kind of escalates because everyone takes it really seriously, and before she knows it, she has to admit to the fact that she did kind of exaggerate, and he didn't really like harass her or say she had to sleep with him, and he never assaulted her or anything like that. No, it wasn't a claim of assault. Yeah, it was a claim of sexual harassment, which is slightly different. And she's super embarrassed. She just kind of dug herself into a hole and didn't know how to get out. Everyone, again, ices her out for it.
Means a lot to me.
But what I didn't like is that, yes, okay, she lied about him forcefully harassing her. But to be fair, I feel like it wasn't a complete lie. Like, she picked up on something very real. He already, obviously, to me, was a creep. Watching it as an adult, it's very, very obvious that from the start, he had intentions to hurt her. And also, his comment was like planting a seed. Like, he was trying to groom her, and he was trying to test the waters a bit to make it an appropriate comment and take it there to see how she would react, right? That's why he mentioned like, oh, are you suggesting sleeping with me? Why did he say that? She wasn't talking about that at all. He brought it there because that's what he was thinking about. That's where his mind was at. So there's a reason why you see in her body language that she kind of gets uncomfortable and she's confused about why he's bringing this up. It's because she can tell that something's off, right? So when she said that he harassed her, it wasn't a complete lie because it was just a weird thing for him to say, you know? Later in season 2, he tries to groom Silver too, and in season 3, but she's just too dumb to realize what's happening because she loves the attention, typical Silver fashion. But Naomi tries to warn her, right, that the way he's interacting with his students is not normal and it's not like casual, you know?
He thinks he's won. Yeah, I'm beginning to think he has too. No way. Hey, Mr. Cannon.
Although the Mr. Cannon storyline is dark and unsettling and it gets even worse into season 3, it was one of the few storylines around a serious topic that I actually felt was handled with the relative seriousness that it needed. What makes the whole storyline even sadder is that the actress Annalyn McCord, who I love, was actually raped and sexually assaulted in real life. She's been very, very open about this. I'm not just making it up. She's done multiple interviews about it, talking about having multiple personality disorder and all sorts of trauma because of this incident. And it's really lovely that she shared her story with people so they would feel less alone. But actually, when those incidents had happened, she blocked them out because they were so traumatic. They were like these buried memories. So when she was filming these scenes, it puts it in a new light that she had still had her own unprocessed trauma, like in real life. And actually filming those scenes ended up being extremely triggering and painful for her. Then we arrive at the season 2 finale, which is, in my opinion, one of the best finales in the entire show because A, it was juicy, B, it was like jam-packed with action, and also everyone looked amazing at the party. Like, everyone looked good, but also like the whole episode is so, I don't know why, but this one is extremely heavy and hardcore and honestly like really anxiety inducing from start to finish. Like, we have the ending, which is just brutal, like where Liam discovers that his boat has been set on fire by Jasper because Jasper's jealous of his relationship with Annie. And it's just heartbreaking because you see that Liam put his whole life into that boat. It literally was his chance of freedom to escape from his family, and he spent hours building a boat and it's just on fire. And it's just like, oh, Liam was so good in season 2. This was like one of his peak moments. It's just heartbreaking. Annie interacting with people and exposing that she didn't actually do anything, and that she didn't sleep with Liam, and that she didn't do anything wrong, you know, and she's always been pushing that throughout season 2, but it was nice to get an idea that we'll actually have some kind of further comeuppance with that and that she'll be integrated into the group again. And especially we see her connecting with Liam and them having some really romantic moments. And we see Naomi, meanwhile, and Mr. Cannon, and she's looking for a chance to kind of connect with him because she bumps into him at the dance, and they have a really nice conversation, and she obviously is glad that they're on speaking terms and he's not too mad at her for making up a whole assault thing. So she's relieved, she's like just happy to have a little chat with him. And she's about to leave because, you know, her car broke down, so she goes to leave, and obviously she's very, very emotional because she found out all this stuff with Jen and who actually slept with Liam. So, you know, it's all very like, you know, she's not in a good headspace because she lost her sister. So she's going to leave, and then he basically tries to kiss her, and he uses her own words against her. He completely makes her question her own credibility, and he says, you know, who's going to believe you? You're the girl who cried wolf. And we know that he's going to like RIP her, and it's just so scary, so upsetting.
No, it's not. Everything is not okay.
And it sets the stage for an incredibly intense season 3 arc. Now we get into season 3, and again, it's an incredibly strong season, one of the last strong seasons in the show, so I'm always going to like appreciate it, you know, because we only really got 3 good seasons in my opinion. There are a lot of things actually that I really loved about season 3. I think it's super strong. Even though I didn't like it as much as season 1 and 2, I did thoroughly enjoy it. It was super good. So the highlight was absolutely Naomi. She smashed it. I mean, she is the standout. This was also the season when she became the main character, and there's a really funny shift from Annie becoming the main character to Naomi, but this is focused on her dealing with PTSD, trauma from what happened to her regarding her rape, and also trying to prove that Mr. Cannon did it. So at the beginning, we see her very much in denial about what he did to her, and then not being able to tell people because she's so ashamed, not being able to sleep, having flashbacks. It's truly awful. But when she finally gets her courage back, we see that she wants to take Mr. Cannon down, which is super cool. It resulted in a very overly dramatic and terrifying kidnap scene where he actually kidnaps her and Silver because he wants to take their money and stuff. Super scary.
We're going to the bank. Naomi, you're driving. Silver waits with me. Try anything, and she's dead. Let's go.
But we have her coming to terms with that, growing as a character, healing her relationship with Annie, you know, apologizing for how she treated Annie in season 2, right? And how she ganged up against Annie. We also have her becoming more humble as a person, meeting Max, the nerd, and actually falling in love with him, like falling in true love for the first time. Like, it was just true character development, and like she literally owned it. I loved every single minute of it.
Always loved it when you wore my shirts. So,
Intimate.
yeah, and you look really damn sexy in them.
There were other really good things too, like Liam and Annie getting together, and there was so much of a build up to this relationship that it's just really exciting to see them say that they love each other. Annie and Marla connecting is super sweet, and it was just lovely to see Annie like have a nice time and be integrated into the friend group again. The trip to Mexico was super compelling, Teddy coming out, and Naomi throwing Ivy a beautiful wedding.
How long did you know? You were into guys. I mean, did you know when we were dating? Because I didn't know.
So I still loved it, but only 80%. So the reason I didn't like season 3 was Silver and Navid. And do I even need to explain this? Do I even need to explain it? I think it's also because in the short term, sure, it was fun. It created a lot of drama, you know, oh my God, Adrianna's gonna find out. But like in the long term, all this did was just like create, in my opinion, like irreversible like damage to their characters. And it just wasn't worth it, you know, because it was so out of character in a way for like all three of them to get involved in like a mess like this. And these guys aren't even friends. You cannot tell me these guys are friends. They are not friends. That is literally bull. None of them are friends. And it was also Navid's behavior and his sudden attitude and his sudden complete disregard for Adrianna's feelings and just being this loser playboy that I really didn't like, because he'd always been like my favorite character in seasons 1 and 2. So it was just disrespectful, you know, it was disrespectful. Also Oscar, like I don't understand why, what is he? What is that? Like what's the point of him? Like genuinely, I'm not saying it to be rude, but like what is that? Like what does he why? Like genuinely, what did he ever bring to the show other than having a crush on Naomi? And even that didn't go anywhere, and then he just left. We also have the complete like abomination that is Adrianna's character in season 3. I like the idea of her getting a bit out of control when she became famous, which was always inevitable in my opinion. Maybe being messed around by her manager, becoming a bit out of touch with reality, it could genuinely happen, becoming a bit shallow. Being corrupted, it happens to the best of us, right? But it was to such a point that it was like a complete flanderization of her character, and it was just like too extreme.
You have Silver's pills. Let me see that. Oh my God. You did do it. I was right. You switched out my pills.
Then we have Charlie. Like I don't like him. I don't like his cardigans. I'm sorry. It just served as like a pointless obstacle between Liam and Annie for absolutely no reason. And Liam was very happy to give up in his romantic relationship with Annie. So he kind of rejects her, saying, I can't date you because Charlie comes first. But then Charlie left the show, so it's like, what's the point then of Liam acting like it's such a big deal he needs to give up his relationship with Annie over it if he's not even going to hang out with Charlie again in the future? Like I hate the show has like a massive problem of introducing in new storylines and new plot points and characters and then just dropping them off the face of the earth as if it like never happened. Also another thing I hated was just Silver. First of all, just Silver, full stop. But also like the whole really harsh pixie cut thing. I'm sorry, like it did nothing for her. Season 4. Wow. This season was almost like, it's actually funny, like it's actually laughable in how bad it got. I genuinely, by the way, I'm not being harsh here, I've seen some bad TV. I don't think I've ever seen a worse series of television than season 4 of 90210. It is so boring, I kid you not, it is so boring that I almost ascended to another plane in my boredom. Like I almost left this earth level boredom, you know? I don't remember anything that happened. Nothing. The only reason I remember what happened is because I look it up on Wikipedia, like for this video. I didn't remember anything. The only storylines I thought were kind of cool were anything involving Jen's return, because she's just always such a class act, such a star, you know, she's so entertaining. But everything else, things get so over the top, so ridiculous, and we completely lose the heart of like almost all the characters. Definitely due to the new showrunners. You can really see it though, it's very, very evident. I mean, there are some good things, like Annie's whole look this season. Dark hair was made for her. She is so beautiful. But we lost a lot of the emotional core, and also I think a big problem was the time jump. There's this jump to them going to college, and it was such a disservice to this show because I don't see the point of them being in university and going off to their first, you know, classes and stuff if it doesn't feel like they're in university. It felt like they were aged like 10 years because none of them are behaving like actual students. Dixon's obsessed with like maybe getting a record label, right? Adrianna's a failed pop star, so she was never really like a normal student. And Naomi is not even in school, she just launches her own party planning business. Now, the only thing I can get behind is Naomi being an events planner because she was always excellent at planning events in season 1 ever since she organized a huge Sweet 16 party in the first season. So I can get behind that, but everything else made literally no sense. And I was like, why are they even in school if they're just going to launch already at such a young age these highly successful careers? Like most of the time Silver's already working on film sets, you know, as if she's like in her 30s.
No, I'm Naomi Clark. I escorted you down the red carpet at that event a couple weeks ago.
Naomi. Of course, I remember you. Did we hook up?
Believe me, if we hooked up, you'd remember.
And it just felt too mature. It aged them too much. Like Liam buying and running a bar at what, 19? Like this just seems weird to me. Silver's like, I want to have a baby. I want to have a baby. I want to be a mum before I'm infertile and sick. Max and Naomi get married. Like, married? Why are they getting married? They're like kids, you know, it's crazy. And also it's the fact that they're so successful already. Like Navid's like this, I don't know what he's doing. I'm a bit confused about that. Some sort of entrepreneur. Like, okay, what's the point of school then? Like, they're not even in school, you know what? And the whole sorority thing is just so cringe. Like a lot of season 4 is Naomi getting involved in like trying to be the head of her sorority, and I don't know why, but I just cannot stand these subplots. It is so cringe to me. Also, we kind of lose a bit of Annie's characterization as well in season 4. Be prepared, babes, because there's a list as to why I despise season 4. So we're gonna be here a long time, okay? Annie suddenly is very entitled about receiving her inheritance money from Marla, who was this lovely older lady who she took care of, which again, I'm sorry, what? You barely knew her. You looked after her for a few days. She got sick, died of, well, she was gonna die of like Alzheimer's, so unfortunately she left this earth prematurely, but like, okay, I get her family doesn't care about her, but Annie's like, that's my money. Marla wanted to leave it for me, and she's trying to fight the family who want to take the inheritance. It's like, girl, why are you putting yourself in a dangerous situation and fighting a family so hard? Like, I understand if she was Marla's caretaker for years and years and like spent a lot of time with her, because I get it, the family didn't really care about Marla, but she only knew her for a few days. She didn't put that much time into it. You know, maybe Marla was having a weak moment when she left her whole estate and money to Annie and her will. Like, you know, she's an old lady. Like, I don't know, it just felt a little bit entitled in my opinion, because like, you don't know her. You know, it was a bit weird.
Thank you for the most wonderful night I've had in years. I couldn't have asked for a more marvelous send-off.
I didn't like Teddy getting written off the show because honestly it felt really lazy to introduce a whole coming out story of him being gay in season 3 and then to decide that therefore now he's come out, his arc is just finalized, and to remove him. Like, I didn't like that. That was disrespectful. Dixon, he suddenly became even more of an asshole in season 4 than he was in season 3. He's like struggling with addiction as well. You know, he can barely afford to pay for school, then he's dropping out of school. Then he gets into a tragic accident that leaves him basically disabled and not able to walk. And I don't understand, how do you go from being like prom king and being like, you know, so successful to like just being this like drug addict loser, like getting into this shitty relationship. Oh my gosh, and that's the thing with Adrianna and Dixon was the worst part of season 4, and this is already an increasingly long list. It felt almost incestuous. It was disgusting to see these two people, like him dating Adrianna, who Navid's best friend's girl, and then her dating Dixon when Dixon was Silver's first boyfriend, was just yuck. I'm sorry.
Come here, you. Oh, you're best ever.
Hello.
And it just then throws Adrianna and Navid into question because they were together in season 1. They interact a lot in season 2 as well. So they're a big deal then. And then the whole of season 4, you barely see them like react to each other because they're not together anymore. So we barely see this couple, and like, what is that? How am I meant to believe that they're going to spend the rest of their lives together in the end when they're barely interacting in seasons 4 and 5? You know, they literally don't see each other. Navid also just becomes this loser. Apparently now Navid is pining after Silver still, but it's like in a really pathetic way where he becomes like a total pushover wimp. Like, he's just obsessing over Silver. He drops out of college for her, like sort of waiting around for her and like this. And I'm like, how did such a cool, ambitious, nice guy just become like this loser? And he's kind of like this fake nice guy now. He's like whinging about how good guys always come last. I'm like, oh, cringe. Like, drop the pity party, please. It's pathetic. Like, how are you failing in a system that was set up for you to make you succeed? Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear the whinging and the complaining. Like, it just, I don't know. Like, I just wasn't a fan of his character and the whole, oh, I'm in love with Silver thing, which after they broke up in season 4 carried on into season 5 for such a long time of him just pining after her and being honestly, like, I hate to say it, but like pathetic, you know, like it was pathetic.
Which is why I don't want to be your friend anymore.
Oh yes, then we had the introduction of Vanessa, as if it could get any worse. Vanessa was like a terrible side character, like she was just weird and pointless, and it was just like really nonsensical. And obviously she manipulates Liam after his accident to kind of brainwash him a bit, which to me felt way too similar to the Ethan and Rhonda storyline in season 1 for me to appreciate it. And they do that a lot. Same with Dixon's accident that leaves him in a wheelchair because of a car crash. That was literally the same as the season 3 storyline of Adrianna getting hit by a car. Like, there's too many recycled plot points here for my liking, and when you start to see it, you can't unsee it with like how many plot points they're just reusing. Liam and Silver hook up and he decides he's in love with her. We'll get into that later because that was painful.
Is that
It was so bad, it wasn't even good. It was just bad, like the whole way through. It's exhausting to watch. It was a total drag. I had to force myself to sit through it. I think for me, the worst part was Liam. Aside from the other stuff I mentioned, Liam. He was such a cool guy in seasons 1 to 3, and they completely make him lose his bad boy spark altogether in season 4. Now he's just this dumb loser who keeps getting taken advantage of by everyone, lied to by everyone. He just has no idea what's going on. Suddenly, the season 1 Liam had very little trust in people. He was very, very guarded. Now in season 4, he's just getting conned by everyone and has no idea what's going on. He becomes dumb. He can barely read. And he suddenly becomes this famous movie sensation and gets signed to an agent. Everyone's just like fangirling over him, which is like so cringe. And then another thing that just didn't make sense to me, aside from him just becoming a complete idiot out of nowhere and just losing all sense of his character, was suddenly he gets so quickly over Annie and he's kind of treating her like shit, you know? Like in season 3, they were in love. Even though he had to leave, he wanted to go find himself, which was a bit shitty of him, but I was like, whatever, it's fine. He needs to grow up a bit. But I wasn't mad, you know, I was just a bit disappointed. But then season 4, it's like, while he's away, we find out that he cheated on Annie with some loser girl who we're never even going to see again, called Jane, on this sailboat. And then to overcompensate for, I think I called it my first video, emotional infidelity, but to compensate for that, he overcompensates by proposing to Annie in this very abrupt and non-romantic way, slamming a ring down on the hood of a car, then proceeds to become offended when she's confused about said proposal and wants to know where he's been all these months and like why he didn't call her and what's going on. Like, horrible behavior on his part to just literally ghost her. And then he just gets in his accident and it's almost like he just completely forgot that Annie existed. He's like mad she didn't come see him at the hospital, and suddenly he's like all about Vanessa, obsessed with Vanessa. Then he becomes obsessed with Silver and he's like, I'm in love with Silver. She is the one for me. She is incredible. I want a piece of that cake. Like, what? What? And then he just hooks up with these random girls. Like, what's going on? And this is just a major problem with the inconsistencies in this season, because he hooks up with Annie like right before his accident. And confesses how he feels about her. They fully hook up. And he goes to actually save her from Patrick because he finds out she's been doing escort work, and basically Patrick has like been really like hurting her. So he rides off on his scooter to go and challenge Patrick, tells him stay away from Annie. It's like this true proclamation of love moment. And then when he gets in his accident, it's like he completely forgets. There's a 1 episode difference, and in the next episode after his accident, he just completely forgets about the fact that he was literally on his way to like confess his feelings for Annie. There is zero continuity, and this is a big problem I noticed in general in season 4, is the lack of consistency, because it was the exact same thing with Naomi and her romantic relationships, and like the way they're written is genuinely like insufferable to me. Like, she's so into Max, so in love with him, then he disappears, and then she just falls in love with Austin, right? And then she falls in love with PJ, and then she realizes that actually she wants Max again, and it makes zero sense. Navid and Liam are suddenly fighting, full-on fighting over Silver, like she's actually a prize, like tackling each other. It was just awful. I didn't understand what was going on, especially Naomi and her romantic relationships. I was trying to figure out what she wanted. I was like, what do you want? Like, who do you want to be with? Because she cheats on Max with Austin. So I was like, okay, do you want to be with Austin? I had no idea what was going on half the time. No idea. And the problem is I wasn't even a fan of Ivy and Diego either. Like, because he just served as a distraction. Like, she just lost her husband Raj, and Diego being there served as a distraction rather than allowing her to figure out life as a widow and deal with her grief. So I just was really underwhelming. And I didn't like Diego. Like, I didn't like how they meet. I didn't like his criminal activity and how he encouraged her to get into it. I didn't like how disrespectful he was towards her. He also lied and didn't tell her he was in the country illegally. Like, he was honestly kind of a jerk. Like, I did not like this couple at all. Sorry, not sorry. This whole season was garbage fire. And then we get to season 5. Thank God talking about that part is over because it makes my blood boil. But even though they kept saying that they might get like a 6th season maybe, and season 5 was definitely happening, in late February it was announced that season 5 would be like the final season, which poses a problem, as I'll get into in a minute, for the showrunners, because in their heads they planned to have like 6 seasons to have another arc to really finalize everything. Now, this season was a step up from the absolute train wreck that was season 4. The storylines were a bit tighter, you know, the pacing was better, and their decisions felt a little bit more like logical. There were some good things, like Max and Naomi's relationship was interesting. It was nice to see them have some screen time. I loved seeing Debbie come back in general. Like, I love to see her, even if it's just for like a quick cameo. I love it. Annie writing her book about her experience being an escort was fascinating.
Maybe a shot of caffeine will help me figure out what time zone I'm in.
Still can't believe you're here.
Yeah. Jen called in a favor with a friend who has a private jet. She can be surprisingly compassionate once a year or so.
I loved seeing all of the OG couples getting back together, and Naomi and Annie admitting that actually they fight like they do. They fight like they do because they're basically sisters. And there were some really standout moments too. There were just a lot of things, really not good things, that I just wasn't happy with. Like, Mark's character was just a bit subpar, a bit underwhelming. Anything involving Liam in general, him setting up his surfing business, was just awful. Liam, I can't remember if it was in season 4 or season 5, but all of it was awful, so I don't even care. I think it was season 5. Liam dating his teacher, gross. Jordan, Naomi's love interest, a new one. He randomly just comes in. He's awful. Like, I'm sorry, so pointless. Like, what's the point of him? They have zero chemistry. Another thing that really bothered me was how, again, Naomi has nothing to do, and she's been floundering for most of season 4, and she's just reduced to like the comedic relief now. Like, she's just there to like make some fun jokes and hang out in a sorority, and has nothing of substance or value to do, even though season 2 and 3 was really based on like her overcoming a rape and like incredible character development. And now we're just meant to reduce her to like the funny sidekick. Like, I just hate that. Especially because she was always meant to be the main character along with Annie, and she becomes the main character fully in season 3. If then you make someone who we always see as the main character given such cringe and pointless storylines, then it really, really does damage to the show as a whole, because she's literally meant to be the anchor of the show. Another thing I didn't like was Annie starts dating this guy called Riley in a wheelchair. She seems really into him. He's a bit insecure, but whatever. He's really nice though. He's just a bit insecure. And they kill him off randomly. No closure. Annie barely gets any grieving time. I didn't like the disabled representation. I also didn't like how his death didn't really make sense.
No sad faces. Divorce sucks, but it's the right thing.
Yeah, no, it is. We're too young.
Also, Liam's kidnapping and PTSD storyline. Like, he gets kidnapped by this crazy woman who wants to ship him in a crate off to Mexico, and she's a huge stalker of him because of his acting and stuff, and fell in love with him. So she poses as like a security guard, and again, he's just completely oblivious to the fact that something fishy is going on. And then she just kidnaps him, and I don't know why, but even him coping with PTSD was just so poorly written. Also, I know I'm being a bit nitpicky here, but I'm sorry I've got to say it. The finale was so rushed and such a mess. Like, they were apparently expecting a 6th season that never happened, so they really quickly had to wrap everything up and finalize the arcs, which is why nothing really made sense, including Naomi throwing a massive concert party directly after a massive accident at Adrianna's concert when there were still people like trapped in the rubble. Like, it just felt really out of character. So it makes sense that they had to kind of scramble and just piece everything together, but it is a shame because only 2 out of the 4 girls got like a satisfying conclusion.
Okay, look, at the present time, no details are known about the cause of the explosion. 3 triage centers have been set up to deal with the injured, and we're doing our best to stabilize the area. That's all I got. Thank you.
Annie and Liam even getting engaged was wonderful, but like it happened way too fast because he'd still been treating her like shit an episode earlier and was about to move to Sydney with Sydney, like literally. Naomi was the worst off because she barely had an arc finalized, and she ends up with that random guy Jordan, who again we don't know, because originally she was meant to have something happen with Max, but they didn't have time to film it. Austin or Max were the best contenders for her in the end, so I would have been happy with either of them, but like we didn't get to see that happen. And Silver was the worst off. She got the most awful send-off even for her. Like basically her surrogate loses the baby and then she finds out that she has cancer. That's it. That is so brutal. Oh my gosh.
Hey, when do you get the results?
I asked the doctor to mail them, but they haven't come yet.
And the showrunner, Lara Olson, explained that if they would have had time, the reason why it was so abrupt with Silver's diagnosis is we were meant to have a 6th season going through like her diagnosis and fighting cancer with Dixon's support. In my opinion, it would have made sense if Silver had adopted, because if she couldn't have kids, Dixon was adopted, so it would be nice for them to adopt a child. But Lara Olson basically said that with her ending, they would have found out that Silver actually didn't have cancer, but she was actually pregnant with Mark's child, and she would have had it. And Naomi's ending was supposed to be more epic because originally the plan for the season finale for like season 6 also included a time jump, and we would have seen that at some period during those 5 years, Liam and Naomi had actually been married, and they had at some point in those 5 years gotten married. And from what I can tell, Annie and Liam were still meant to end up together, but there would have been a bit of that kind of love triangle first between them and Liam before Naomi ultimately broke it off with Liam. And I have mixed feelings about this. I hate the idea of any kind of animosity or fighting between Annie and Naomi because we had enough of that. But at the same time, this to me just scratched some sort of itch that I didn't even know needed to be scratched, because suddenly everything clicked and it made an incredible amount of sense to me. Because when you think about it, Liam was always, I don't care what anyone says, even before Max, even before Austin, Liam was like always Naomi's big first crush and first love. And we never got a resolution. Like they had so much care and passion for each other, and it just dropped off without being talked about past season 2. Like it made no sense. Season 1, that she was like in love with him. He was starting to really open up his heart to her. And season 2, they're pining mutually over each other, but Jen is like setting them up. And then after that, they're just like done. And once they break up, we don't get to see them anymore. So to me, especially with Naomi's growth, it would have made so much sense in a way for them to rekindle and be like married or in a relationship for a little while. So it's just a shame that we didn't get to see like how they would have played it out.
I guess you're right. That was not my scene.
And as chaotic as it was, it's unfortunate, but I think it reflects how the show was just juggling too many balls at once, and unfortunately they just had to cut it short before they could really properly wrap it up with something satisfying for the audience. Now moving on to the characters. Starting with Liam, because originally he was like my favorite character in the entire show, which is why I'm so bummed. Like him and Navid weren't my favorites, and early seasons Liam was like the best addition to the show with his bad boy persona. The idea that he's so smart but he pretends to be dumb because he can't be bothered in school, but he has like a ton of intelligence. Oh, his slow burn with Naomi, it was so juicy. They had so much chemistry. And you can see how he wishes he met Annie first, because they're on this double date. He's already bored. And the minute he meets Annie, they suddenly get each other. Like they click, they connect, they understand each other, and they see the truth to who the other is immediately, it's within like a 30-second conversation or interaction, and they're already both feeling so seen, you know, and they realize that they kind of like each other. So unfortunately, they just met at the wrong time because Naomi and Liam met first. He was really disconnected from Naomi later, which I think is part of the reason why he was so quick to not hear her side of the story and ditch her to sleep with Jen, because his heart wasn't truly in it, you know, and he was angry as well. He had a lot of anger. And I think you really see this in season 2, because when he's pursuing Naomi, it seems like he's doing it out of guilt and out of remorse for how he treated her, but not because he genuinely like necessarily wants to be in a committed relationship with her. The only reason also why he goes to like give the relationship another shot is because Annie tells him like that he should do the right thing, right? And he should make it work with Naomi. And so he gets into a relationship with Naomi, even though he knows he likes Annie, but he doesn't feel it with Naomi, and she becomes, you know, really selfish in her relationship with him. She lies a lot, and she doesn't ask him how he's doing, and Liam just knows he deserves better, and so he checks out mentally and like he ends it. Unfortunately, I think the reason why he liked Annie over Naomi is because Naomi's great, you know, but sometimes she's a real like chattermouth, and she doesn't really make space for people when they're going through something difficult. And what Liam really needed was not just humor and like flirting, but he needed a safe place to land. He needed a place to be vulnerable and open up about what he was going through, and Annie was the only person he could truly do that with. We learn that his mother remarried but has checked out on him emotionally a long time ago. His stepdad is abusive. His real dad left him and has only ever used him. And people have only ever used him. And so that's why he drinks, he skips school, he rides race cars, because he's always in a state of rebellion.
I mean, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah.
So why?
And I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. I've done drugs. I've been violent. Didn't tell people the truth about what happened with Jen.
He pretends he's stupid because no one in his life has any kind of expectation for him. And we see that actually he is loving, he is protective, he just needs someone to love him back and let him in like his friends do. In season 2, when he's being bullied by Jen, his friends step up for him and protect him, and that's when he realizes that he does have a support network. And it's honestly really beautiful to see. He's such a great written character. Like, his relationship with Annie is so romantic, and I really liked it. Season 2, episode 19, him cooking for her, it was just perfection. In season 2, episode 19, we had the fountain scene between them, which was literally perfect. It was so romantic. Him cooking for her in season 3, so romantic.
Annie, what are you doing?
I don't know.
And in the season 2 finale, you can see that he's properly fallen in love with her. Like, the way he's looking at her on his boat, he's completely smitten. I loved the build up between them. I loved the whole thing. I really did. And when he does something immature, he breaks the law, he does something stupid, Annie makes him step up and become a man, because she just does not stand for it. It was so heartbreaking to see him being bullied by Jen in season 2 and being basically blackmailed and made to feel like something really, really bad would happen if he reported her and told the truth. Basically being bullied by a much older woman when you think about it. It was just so sad to see. And yeah, he's a fully realized character in the first 3 seasons. He's stubborn, he's prideful, he has trust issues, but he's honestly like got a heart of gold underneath, and he was just such a great character. But in season 4, this is honestly where I stopped liking Liam, because he becomes so dumb. I also find it honestly, frankly, insulting that he would be out there genuinely chasing after like 5 different women, while Annie in season 4 is standing there looking like this, like literally looking like this good. I didn't understand his modeling and acting arc. Liam was never the kind to jump for that kind of attention. Like, why would he start now? Why would he even get involved with that? It just doesn't make sense. It just also entirely is incompatible with who he is as a person, which is very, very private, really values his personal time, doesn't like strangers, doesn't like interactions with random people. He hated that red carpet they had to do in season 1. That was for like 10 minutes. Like, he's just fundamentally disinterested in it, and he doesn't even like meeting new people, so it literally made no sense. Then in season 4, he completely starts treating Annie like shit and being disrespectful, which again didn't feel like him. And then he starts continuing to date Vanessa even after he finds out that she, maybe intentionally, hit him with her car, and that she very possibly has fabricated a whole backstory about who she is and where she grew up.
I'm not gonna let anything get in the way of our dreams coming true. Hey, I gotta get your mic.
Okay.
And I'm like, sorry, is this the same Liam who used to analyzed people, analyzed their words, who made Naomi do all sorts of crazy stunts to initiate her to prove that she was worthy of dating him. And now he's just like buying whatever this girl tells him. The only one genuinely good and funny season 4 moment was the bar commercial he did, where I think he was launching his bar and they wanted to film like an ad campaign to you know, promote it, with him opening the beer, because he just does such a terrible job acting it that he opens the beer badly and sprays it everywhere, and then he has to take off his shirt. And they end up actually putting it in slow-mo, and everyone ends up really, really loving it and thinking it's super sexual and attractive, and it was like a complete accident. Okay, granted, that was very, very funny. I kind of loved it, but like everything else was terrible.
The beer is cold. The view is hot.
Especially Jane's storyline, like the idea he just would come back so different in season 4 and suddenly like in love with Jane, who's this stale as white bread woman. He's like connecting with her as if Annie never happened, fighting with Jane, like to be with her. It just makes no sense. And so then he ditches this random boat girl that he is claiming to be in love with, wants to be with Annie, ditches her for Vanessa. Makes no sense. And then suddenly he's hooking up with Silva, of all people, and he's apparently in love with her and saying that she's nothing like he's ever experienced before. I mean, come on. Then in season 5, he's dating more people. He starts dating his college professor, who's this extremely creepy, perverted weirdo who hates him and bullies him because she actually wants to sleep with him, okay? Then he dates this random surfer girl called Sydney and actually wants to move with her and is saying he's in love with her. I mean, then he's hooking up with random sorority girls when he's roommates with Annie, like in front of her, and just doesn't care. He becomes such a sleazebag. He's just breaking Annie's heart over and over and over again, and she's there like pining after him. It made no sense. Then she writes a book where she included him in it, in her book, and she painted him as this almost mythic romantic figure, truly someone to like admire. And for some reason he gets super mad about that and super offended and said his life got worse because she was in it, and then he ices her out. Then he says, okay, you can make it up to me by buying my bar so I can move to Sydney with my girlfriend. Keep in mind that when he was stalked and nearly shipped to Mexico, Annie literally came to save him and took a bullet for him. And this is how he's like speaking to her. Then we get to the finale, which is like 1 episode later, and suddenly he does a complete 180. He remembers that Annie is the love of his life, and before she can get to Paris, he chases down the plane on his motorcycle to propose to her. Yes, of course, it's beautiful, it's romantic, I love it, but like the real question is, why did it take like 5 seasons of treating her like an afterthought to get to this point? Why was he acting like he hated her? What is going on? Annie deserved better than that. She deserves someone who loved her consistently, not just in these random moments of sporadic clarity. Like, what? Like, it made no sense. Now, when we talk about Ryan, there's a lot of similar issues there where the show didn't really know what to do with him. Now, Ryan is one of those early season comfort characters, not because he had good storylines, because he didn't, but his presence was really comforting for the show. And when we lost that in season 4, that ironically is also when the show went downhill, which I don't think is like a coincidence. And honestly, he was such a sweet teacher. He really did care about his students, I think. Like, he really supported Liam, even when Liam had this troubled past. He really supported Naomi, even if it meant losing his job. If he had to come forward about a rape, then he would do what he had to do. He encouraged Naomi to be brave and speak out, even though he could lose his job because he was drunk and he hit a stop sign that night, which is how he saw her with Mr. Cannon. And you're not really meant to drink and drive as a teacher, especially on school property. So he knew what the consequences would be of backing her story, and he chose to do it anyway. And honestly, I do really like this character. I also really liked his romantic relationship with Jen, and I felt like they were a super good match. He's warm, he's approachable, and he's just generally a really likable character. His entire sort of description seems to be hot teacher who hooks up with older women in Beverly Hills, and I'm like totally cool with that. I even liked him with Kelly. Now we can talk about Dixon. Oh my gosh, I barely talked about Dixon in my first video because I didn't think there was much to say, which is another reason why I wanted to make this video, because we need to talk about him more, because Dixon is such a badly written character. Way worse than Annie, in my opinion. Way worse than Liam. Because they all had their moments, you know, where they were developed really well and they had something super, super juicy going on. whereas Dixon never really did. And he started out as a character in season 1 with like a lot of potential and is a super interesting character, genuinely a great setup, especially because you could see in his relationship with Silver that it was quite emotionally complex, but also Dixon wasn't having his feelings validated, right? Like he had a lot of feelings he wanted to share with Silver, and she often wouldn't meet him halfway, and she would be very, very dismissive towards his hobbies and interests and would just talk about her own, you know, and Dixon felt like she wasn't really like in it, you know. So he was a very interesting character in season 1 because of his relationship with Silver, his thing around being adopted and wanting to contact his adopted mother and his real mother. Like there was a lot of interesting stuff there, but from season 1 onwards, they completely like dropped the ball. I don't know what happened in the writer's room. I don't know what was going on, but he's never been a good character since season 1. I don't get why people have these nostalgic views of Silver and Dixon, because they were not a good couple. She was very, very selfish. She was very, very dominating, and this carried into the finale of season 1 with the prom episode, where Dixon worked so hard to make Silver prom queen because he wanted to celebrate her, and he is one of the popular kids as well. And Silver gives this whole speech about how I hate high school, I hate proms, this is so cringe, this is such a social construct, I reject this crown, which was also rejecting the effort Dixon went to for her. And you can see how he went from being so excited to just completely deflated, and that literally was their relationship. She did nothing good for him. And then season 2, Dixon is just terrible. He becomes like this really try-hard fake guy. He starts dating Sasha, this older woman, and is being so manipulative, lying to her, pretending that he's a music producer and he's in his late 20s when in fact he's still a high school student, basically deceiving her, lying to her. And then for some reason, when they like get more serious, she finds out the truth and she turns into this total crazy bitch. Like honestly, it was really racist in my opinion that they had her flip out like that and become so crazy, but also apparently have a scare and it turns out she's got an STD. Like it just felt like a lot of stereotypes, but she like wants to be with him. She becomes obsessed with being with him despite his age, and she knows his age. She keeps seeing him. Then she lies about being pregnant to keep him, and the only person who pieced it together was Debbie, and Debbie knew that something was seriously off with Sasha. And Dixon was so mean to his mum at points, but like she was genuinely just trying to help, and like she was doing the right thing because no one else was going to step in to protect Dixon except her apparently. But then Dixon as a brother was like the worst part of all in season 2. Like he punched the guy who took topless photos of Annie. He was angry, which felt like the appropriate thing to do was to be angry. But then he immediately like stabbed her in the back and used her as deflection when he got in trouble, because then he was like, oh, wait, I'm being punished for punching that guy in the face. Well, what about Annie? She's done loads of things wrong. You know, she called the cops in the party, and Annie's the one who is going around having sex. So he just immediately, to not get in trouble from his dad, started dobbing in on Annie. It was just really, really nasty how he completely ditched her the minute she lost all her friends and she was alone. She seemed, to be honest, suicidal, and he literally ditched her to be one of the cool kids and wouldn't even hear her out or hear her side of the story, which is what a brother is supposed to do. Annie tried to tell him, he shut it down, and then he assumed that she slept with Liam, which, sorry, but what? Then he started calling her names, was like, yeah, fuck you, Annie, and like saying horrible things to her and icing her out, ignoring her, saying he just couldn't deal with her. I know, I just can't deal with Annie at the moment, she's so annoying. What? Showed no empathy when she was in an abusive relationship with Jasper. He was just like, oh, whatever, that guy's a drug dealer. What? How do you speak to your own sister that way? Like, it was just awful. Didn't care what she was going through, didn't care that she had 0 friends, just wanted to hang out with the boys and go surfing. It was genuinely awful. And the worst part is that one day he was surfing with Liam out on the beach, and Liam said to him, hey bro, just so you know, I didn't sleep with your sister. I didn't sleep with Annie. Rather than Dixon being like, hang on, hold on, you're telling me she didn't sleep with you and she's being massacred by the group and trying to save Annie, instead of that, which would be the appropriate response, he was like, oh, whatever bro, I don't even, can we not talk about Annie right now? I don't care, she's annoying me so much at the moment, she's so crazy. What? That's how you're gonna respond? Does it not concern you that Annie's been framed for something that she literally didn't do? Don't you want to step in as a brother? A whole of season 2 is just like being so mean to her. Also, I didn't like how he was in season 2 with his relationship with Ivy. Like, they were cute at first. They obviously really like each other, but he lied and kind of broke up with Ivy. He broke her heart, honestly. He didn't want to tell her the truth about something, so he lied. And so Ivy slept with someone, which by the way was completely fine because she thought they were broken up and she was heartbroken. So it was just like a very emotional rebound on her end. And then Dixon gets all mad when he finds this out, which was just like, to me, such a double standard because like that same afternoon after the breakup as a rebound, he also kissed Silva. So why are you getting mad? Even regularly before the breakup, where he broke up with her, he wasn't treating her very well because he had a lot going on and he was being distant and kind of blowing her off. So it makes sense that she would be heartbroken. So I don't get what he's mad about. So that was already not great. I didn't like it. But then we get into his addiction storyline in season 4 and that was completely ridiculous. Like, we had the gambling thing already, which I found really, really reckless, very stupid and very irresponsible of him because he started to get into this habit of gambling. So he'd been dumb before, but it's the fact that he was dumb a second time and then started developing this dependency on drugs that I just hated so much. Especially when he was talking to Adrianna about it and she was trying to protect him and be his sober companion and he was like, I'm an addict, babe. I was like, oh, cringe. I'm sorry, Dixon is just not that kind of guy. It doesn't make sense. Like, it just seems very out of character for him. Annie had to do something to pay for his rehab because he needed it. So she became an escort to pay for his rehab. And then he has the nerve to be ungrateful. It's like, bro, she did what she had to do to fix your screw up. So don't go and like get mad at her. Like, I don't understand this. Just be grateful. You know, she did what she had to do. And then he gets into a relationship with Adrianna and it makes it even worse because he treated Adrianna like crap. And of course, Adrianna was selfish and toxic in her own right, but Dixon didn't address most of their issues in their relationship. They would just sweep it under the rug and continue on as per usual. I think it says everything that he proposed to her when he thought that he might need surgery. He wasn't really genuine. Maybe he was worried that no one else would like him if he was disabled or something, so he wanted to lock her down. Like, his intentions with that were weird, and it reminded me so much too of when he suggested they move in together to save money, and it was like the most unromantic gesture ever for like this next step together. Then she cheated on him, which I get was like wrong because she was lying, but he then continued to punish her endlessly for it, and then he got into a new relationship within days with a new girl. And also, you don't need to punish her and release a new label called Unfaithful Records and make fun of her and tell her her hair's bad and put her through torture. Like, you don't need to do that. It was bad to the point that he was constantly hassling her to make her life difficult because he was vengeful, just causing problems to punish her for cheating on him rather than just moving on, and keeping her within the label and the contract even when she wanted to leave. Like, he was trapping her so she couldn't leave, making it really, really difficult for her to leave. And then he starts dating this new girl, right? Michaela, I think, and she, or was it someone else? I don't know, I don't care, she has no relevance, but she really, really wants to go to university. She can't afford it, and so Dixon makes Adrianna work overtime to raise a bunch of money, and then he gives the money to pay for this girl's university without Adrianna's consent, and it took her a lot of time and hard work. Nobody ever calls him out. Like, his friends, no one says, hey, bro, that was fucked up. Like, he never faces any kind of accountability. There was a reason she cheated on him. First of all, when she started hooking up with that guy, her and Dixon were broken up, okay? And they started something up. So at the time, it really wasn't cheating at all. She was single. Also, he literally ditched her to pursue his music career and only circled back later. Everybody forgets that, but he went to perform and this company said they wanted to sign him to a label, but not with Adrianna. And he didn't communicate, he hid it from her. And then he agreed to do it again, like without telling her what was going on. And then he just disappeared to go on tour without any kind of goodbye or closure or communication on his end. And he only came back like after he got in his accident. But I'm sorry, like, how was Adrianna supposed to feel? Then when he got back from his accident, he wasn't really like being very nice to her. A lot of their relationship, in fact, he was very ungrateful. You know, he was rude, he was obsessing over his work and not making time for her. And okay, he had his good moments. Maybe his best moment was in season 5 when he finds out that Annie was forced to be an escort for Patrick, and then Patrick started treating her really, really badly, and even now is trying to like blackmail her and scare her. And Dixon shows up at this baby shower or something at Patrick's house to give him a massive scare and threatens him and says he would protect his sister, and he says Annie's not alone, she's got me. I love that scene. That was boss behavior. That was like slay Dixon behavior. I love to see him standing up for his sister. I love to see him respecting his sister.
Approved memos, lead a workshop.
And it was a beautiful moment, but I wish he had just done that more in general throughout the show, because I felt like for a lot of the show, Annie was really like having a caretaker role over Dixon, and she was always looking out for him and caring so much about him and you know, looking after him after he had his car accident. And I just don't feel that that same care was like fully reciprocated. Like a lot of the time he was also very like ungrateful and dismissive towards Annie, and sometimes he could just be kind of mean to her. Now let's get into Annie, because a lot of people couldn't stand Annie in the first season. They found her too perky and kind of preppy, but honestly, I loved her, and I think she's still like my favorite character. I love her bond with Dixon and how she always gravitates towards him when something's wrong, especially in seasons 1 and 2. They have this really strong brother-sister bond. And as a lead character, I think she works because she's relatable and fun, but she's also kind of grounded, and she's really, really good for any kind of emotional, dramatic scene. Like, they leaned into Naomi a lot with the comedy because they realized Annalyn McCord is incredible at comedy, but they know Annie is really, really good at the emotional scene, so it works for her as a lead. But I think it's really interesting because she was really popular and confident back in Kansas, and then when she moves to West Bev, she feels suddenly totally out of place, you know, and she feels like not the cool kid anymore. The running joke that Annie is not a good actress and she shouldn't pursue it as a career is hilarious to me, because what evidence do we have that she's a terrible actress? I don't get it. Like, it's her dream, it's her passion, and she's constantly being told that it's the wrong passion to have and she's not good at it, and she's constantly being dismissed in auditions, or the role's been given to someone else.
Mama who bore me, mama who gave me, mama the angels who made me so sad.
Her friendship with Marla was one of the most touching parts of the series, and I loved seeing them connect and become friends. But looking at Annie's romantic choices, I've noticed she goes for them because she thinks that they're good on paper for her, or that she should mesh with them, or that they're like compatible. Like Ethan on paper looks great, Jason her first boyfriend, and they seem like safe and stable. Like Jason was this really predictable, reliable kind of boyfriend. Ethan was like someone she thought she could be safe with because they were like, you know, they were friends at summer camp. And even Jasper, I think, still fits into that category, because I know he manipulated her, but he had a very clever persona of like this soft, sweet, sensitive, kind loner boy that she could be safe with. So it's interesting that with Liam, sure, he was dangerous and he brought that danger and it scared her, and he was like an outlier in that sense, but that's exactly why it worked, because he truly saw her for who she was, and he brought her out of her shell and he challenged her in a way that no other guy did. I don't know if you guys remember, but in season 1, Annie dated Ty, and a lot of people were a huge fan of this couple actually before Liam came along, and it was hilarious to me that she was struggling to choose between Ty and Ethan, because to me, obviously you'd go for Ty, like the choice is so evident. Actually, I found it kind of sad because Annie was a virgin and she wanted her first time to be special. I think it's really interesting in season 1, episode 6, I think they resolved this misunderstanding between them. And then she reveals that she wants to keep seeing him, but she wants to take it slow because she's just not ready yet to have sex. And he's like, oh, okay, well, nice seeing you. And he instantly just puts on like this friendly bro vibe as if they're just friends, and suddenly doesn't want to date her anymore after all that. And so to me, that like showed exactly what his intentions were from the start. If he suddenly loses interest when she doesn't want to sleep with him right away, like it was very, very telling. But she also dated Ethan in season 1, and he was like the worst boyfriend known to man. He treated her so bad. And after they break up, you can see that she's so much more free, and she becomes a way better character when she gets rid of Ethan. She really, really liked Ethan, and I get it, but she was friends with Naomi, and I found it a little bit sad how she chose to sneak around with Ethan behind Naomi's back and lie to Naomi and pretend that they weren't dating, especially because it was Naomi's ex-boyfriend. Like, I don't understand how you could even want to date Ethan when you know that he cheated on your friend Naomi. Like, now you know he's a cheater. And also Naomi, even though she has her flaws, she was like the least backstabbing person among them. She was the least likely to want to date someone's ex or someone's boyfriend. She has the strongest girl code out of all of them. And I know this because in season 2, when Teddy was introduced, Naomi thought he was gorgeous. She was strongly attracted to him. She wanted to seek him out. Then the minute she found out later on in season 2, episode 1, that Teddy was Adrianna's ex and he was like Adrianna's first time and they had a whole history, she said, nope, that's it, I'm not touching someone's leftovers. And she never looked at Teddy in the same way again. When Annie sees Naomi kissing Annie's ex, Annie gets really angry and vengeful because she thinks Naomi did it on purpose to hurt her. And that's when you see that Annie really is becoming more like Naomi, because she's super angry, she's holding a grudge, she's getting into fights, and she's spiteful, you know, she's unwilling to let things go. And this drives a wedge between her and Ethan because she's acting out of character, and in his mind, Annie needs to be perfect all the time. At another point when she uses Rhonda's story, because she's under like a lot of pressure in her acting class to come up with something good, she just uses Rhonda's story. He gets so mad and judges her for it before even hearing her out about why she used Rhonda's story. Eventually, Naomi and Annie repair their friendship, and Annie tries to be a girl's girl again. Her relationship with Ethan is starting to break down, and it's not so good again. And that's what really upsets her. It's not the fact that she might break up with Ethan, or maybe she won't. It's the realization that she put Naomi through so much stress, and she sacrificed her friendship with Naomi for a relationship that Ethan didn't even care enough to fight for. She thought that giving up her friendship would mean something, that she and Ethan were worth it, that they were worth the hassle. Another reason she did it is because of how appallingly he treats her after his accident. But Naomi pushes Annie to go on a double date, including with Liam's friend, because Naomi likes Liam. And it's on that double date that Liam and Annie have like this undeniable chemistry, and Liam actually asks her out, even though he's currently dating Naomi. Like at the date, he asks Annie out instead. The season 1 finale is really tough because at this point, Annie's not even going after Liam because she trusts first and foremost her relationship with Naomi. So she's being a girl's girl, she's being a good friend. And that's why it hurts so much to watch when everyone is so angry at her because they think that she slept with Liam when she didn't.
He got so drunk, so I had to drive.
Stop lying to me! Stop it!
Naomi, I wouldn't do that to you.
What are you talking about? You already have! Ethan, ring a bell? And I forgave you, because apparently I was an idiot.
Okay, Naomi, please stop, okay? This is crazy.
Season 2, Annie was a tough ride. It was really difficult to watch, and I can't get over the fact that none of her friends were there for her. Dixon's being mean, and I'm like, why are you being mean? Did you face being screamed at, being ostracized by the entire group and told no one wanted you around and not having any friends? Like, why are you judging her? Silver and Adrianna are total cowards. Annie is begging Naomi not to send out those nude photos of her. Begging her, and her friends, her ex-friends do nothing. Also, Jasper is textbook narcissist abuse in human form. Like, he is so abusive emotionally. From day one, he has this rage, he has this obsessive tendency towards her, this possessiveness, and this continual guilt tripping, even from their first interactions, which is like painful to watch because he just knows if he pokes her and mentions his dead uncle, that Annie, because she was responsible for the hit and run that killed his uncle, Annie will want to come and help him, because that's the thing. Annie, when she left the party in the season 1 finale, actually hit a man with her car and was responsible for a hit and run. Everyone gives Annie so much shit for this and says it was the worst thing she ever did, which I agree with, but it was also an extremely traumatizing incident. You have to remember this is a 16-year-old girl who was drunk and doesn't remember a lot of it, but just remembers that she hit someone with her car and is so traumatized by what she did and is worried about the consequences. Like, I honestly just felt bad for her because it was a complete accident, and Jasper knows this, and it was the fact that the entire time he knew that she killed his uncle and he still wanted to hang out with her was honestly sadistic. Like, he knew, he could tell because she was weird and guilty and giving weird vibes at the funeral, and like, he knew that. And like, the fact that he still chose to seek her out and use that to his advantage was frankly like disgusting. What I don't like is the show barely highlighted how abusive he was beyond the drug angle and the fact that he was a drug dealer, which is so funny because to me the fact that Jasper was a drug dealer was the least of Annie's problems. He actively tries to isolate Annie, gets mad when she gets invited to a social gathering or an opportunity to connect with other people, manipulates her emotionally, and even her parents, when they meet him, notice that she's constantly on eggshells and like apologizing all the time. Jasper pushed Navid down some stairs because Navid was going to expose him for being a drug dealer, and Jasper is so freaked out at the thought of Navid remembering or Navid telling someone about like the accident and what happened. So when he sees Annie that whole morning, like, he is being so weird around Annie. He's like actually being rude to her and ignoring her. And then the minute he finds out that Navid doesn't remember anything, he's back to his usual chipper self again, which just to me shows how actually nasty and manipulative he is underneath, because when he's stressed, his like real colors come out. But Naomi becomes a full-fledged bully in season 2, like actually a bully, and the way that she treated Annie was disgusting. And the only time you see that light come back into Annie in season 2 is actually the fountain scene with Liam, where, you know, it's a moment where she seems alive again. Silver automatically sides with Naomi in the whole Liam and Annie sleeping together drama. Dixon doesn't believe her, and Liam just doesn't say anything. If I was Annie, I would have held a grudge for like way longer than she did. Now, I'm all for angst and tension, but there's a constant sense of fear and dread hanging over Annie the entirety of season 2, and I don't like how they just continued and dragged it out for a whole 22 episodes because it felt really, really cruel, and at some point the tone was just far too heavy, and it was honestly just difficult to watch to see her be ostracized and depressed. Part of this was reportedly behind the scenes drama. Shanae and Annalyn are now best friends. They have a podcast together, but at the time of filming, there was some angst, apparently some kind of, ironically, some sort of lie spread around Shanae that wasn't really true. It was a misunderstanding and Annalyn believed it. And so they kind of had this fight and they weren't really talking actually at this point. And so as a result, Shanae was deliberately kept isolated from the other girls and not in the same scenes with them a lot of the time. Jasper in general, I'm sorry, I hate his face, I hate his voice, I hate everything about him. He is revolting. And I felt like, honestly, Annie wasn't even attracted to Jasper. Like, I know she lost her virginity to him, but hot take, I don't think she was even attracted to him. I honestly think she was just dating him like out of pity, you know, because he kept going on and on and on about like his dead uncle and she just felt guilty. We also find out that she didn't actually return Liam's calls later on, I think in season 3, because she didn't want to send him the wrong impression and she was scared because, you know, she didn't want Naomi to be mad at her. So we see that she very much has that kind of loyalty towards Naomi. She goes into her room, she's reclusive, she's depressed, she's not saying much, she's becoming angry and irritable and lashing out at people a lot, antisocial, and her parents blame her for the fact that her friends are no longer talking to her. They assume she must have done something wrong. It was insane. Her bond with Dixon suffers. He barely asks how she's doing and says they're so different now. Annie ends up isolated even within her own family. It's sick. It's like Dixon and her parents and then her like over here. Debbie critiques her behavior and then Harry grounds her and he's like, oh, well, you know, Annie, grow up. You called the police on your friends. They're mad. Get over it. What? You're not even gonna ask her what happened or like what's going on, because obviously there's a lot more to it than that. In season 2, episode 3, Annie goes along with the lie about Naomi's exes always falling for her. She pretends that she did indeed sleep with Liam and she mocks Naomi's jealousy. And what made me feel even sicker is that she does that. She stands up for herself for once because she was just being Naomi's punching bag a majority of season 2. She stands up for herself, right? And then Silver's like, Annie, that was really harsh. That was really mean. What? Honestly, to me, it's a textbook example of like why dating someone when your life is in turmoil or you're feeling lonely or you don't have many friends or you don't feel good, you feel depressed. It's just a terrible decision to date when you're in that headspace. I think you're bound to make some really, really bad choices and choose someone horrible. And even if you choose a wonderful person, you are going to mess up that relationship because you're going to be so depressed and needy and you're going to rely on them for everything and you just won't be in a good way. Jasper is lying to her constantly, pretending he's not a drug dealer when he is. And then whenever Annie questions his intentions, he spins this whole story about how he's quirky and he's a loner to kind of shut her up. And the only person who seems to actually care and look out for her is Navid in season 2, who warns her about Jasper's shady behavior and says, hey Annie, just so you know, I think the guy you're dating is a drug dealer. Annie is so excited to bring around Jasper to meet her parents in season 2. She wants to invite him around for dinner. She's so excited for them to meet him because again, this is the only person right now that's her friend, not even Dixon. Dixon can't be bothered to show up even though, you know, rather than protecting her, she's like, I don't want to hang out with her and her drug dealer boyfriend. So he basically drops a massive bomb, which if he had any consideration, he wouldn't want to ruin Annie's dinner. So maybe he would mention it to the parents afterwards in confidence and not just fuck it up. It was just really disrespectful. He's like, I don't want to hang out with her and her drug dealer loser boyfriend. But anyway, obviously Debbie and Harry were totally right because the least of their concerns was the fact that there was a rumor around Jasper being a drug dealer. It was the fact that something is wrong with him. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with like their criticisms. There was nothing wrong with them to voice with Annie that something's off about Jasper. And you know, I think they did their best. They tried to be friendly, but then when Jasper left, they said to Annie, look, we don't think you should see Jasper anymore, which I think is good communication. And, you know, they elaborated and they said, you know, he's odd, like he's odd, he's weird. He doesn't have any friends, you know. It just broke my heart because of the fact that they just say it like they can just decide who Annie sees. And Annie's like, you don't even know him. Like, you met him one time. What are you talking about? That, look, sorry, but like, now I understand because Jasper is like a sociopath and a potential drug dealer that they were concerned. But Annie got angry and Annie got defensive and she was like, what? No, you can't say that. She's in love with him. You left her unattended to fall in love with this man and now you're like stepping in. But also it's the fact that like, you can't, she has no friends. You can't just tell her to not see him. In fact, what I found more concerning was that they didn't check in and figure out what was going on with us and what did we do wrong in our parenting where she's going for a nasty like guy like this. Like, clearly it was a cry for help on Annie's part that she feels alone. And so that's why she has this boyfriend. That's why she's excited because like it's a cry for help and it's a plea for help and they should have listened to that. And instead they just go into this horrible authoritarian, you know, judgmental mode. Like they get her in trouble for sending out nudes. They're like, you're grounded, you know, rather than protecting her from the fact that child pornography is being distributed around the school. And then they ground her when she keeps seeing Jasper. How is grounding her and punishing her going to fix anything? Like, it was honestly evil. In season 3, Annie's name is cleared and she finally starts to somehow heal her relationship with the girls and go back to normal again, which she's bigger than me because I could never get over something like that. But Annie starts to become back to her normal self. She manages, I mean, she deserved a massive apology and she didn't really get one, but Naomi at least apologizes. Everyone else should have too, frankly, but she manages to kind of move on with her life. She dumps Jasper. He tries really hard to convince her to stay, a whole suicide attempt, everything, but she finally manages to cut him off, which was super, super brave. And I was really proud for the way she handled the Jasper thing with such dignity and grace, considering like his behavior. But she finally starts to see Liam again, and her and Liam are super cute in this season. I also really like that Naomi kind of gave them her blessing in a way. Their chemistry is everything. It was nice to see her be happy. But I have to say that the thing that really bothers me about season 3, despite the fact that Annie is happy, is the fact that there is a complete repeat of Annie being shunned and no one believing her, just as there was in season 2, which shows that no one learned anything because cousin Emily comes to stay, Annie's cousin. She's very manipulative, very, very weird. And she basically starts impersonating Annie, you know, wearing her clothes, doing her hair the same way, integrating herself into Annie's friend group, pursuing the same hobbies, and no one believes Annie when she says that she's uncomfortable. They all act as if it's wrong for Annie to just express an opinion, that she finds it weird that she has this copycat. And what bothered me the most was Debbie just being completely blind to what was going on and like kind of pushing Emily further into their friend group and without actually checking in to see if Annie was okay or how she felt, and basically believing Emily over her own daughter. And the worst thing is that when Annie starts sensing that something fishy is going on with Emily, no one believes her in the same way that they didn't believe her in season 2 when she said that she didn't sleep with Liam. I was so happy when Liam actually believed Annie finally, and so they teamed up together to kind of frame Emily in the act and call her out and take her down. It was the only good part of that plot, you know, was justice. It was great seeing Liam supporting Annie and like, you know, helping reveal her true colors to the rest of the group. But I don't like it because initially he didn't take Annie's word over Emily's. He took Emily's word. Like, it took Emily doing something really like drastic and like hitting on him for him to kind of believe Annie. This the fact that they barely knew her. If my friends and my boyfriend kind of did that to me and dismissed what I was saying, Emily makes up this lie about how Annie called them all bitches and they just believe her without even checking with Annie first. It was just unreal. Honestly, it was unreal and it was like ridiculous. In season 4, it was an insane season, but Annie slayed as per usual. I don't care what anyone says. I love Annie. I think she looked amazing. She owned every scene she was in and she carried the show on her back in season 4. She was like the only good part of season 4. She's just this sweet girl who's excited to move to Beverly Hills. Then we have bullying, blackmail, child pornography, her becoming an escort and having a relationship with a priest. Like, my God. Anyway, for some reason, Annie becomes obsessed with like fighting the family of Marla at all costs to get the family fortune. And finally, she beat Marla's grandson and proved he never cared about Marla. And she says the iconic line, "It's rich bitch to you," which was just legendary slay. Poor Annie has a bit of a rough time when she realizes that both Jasper and Emily have become more successful than she has. And at that point, she hadn't even like published her book. I like that Annie started to treat herself to nicer, more luxurious things. She wrote a whole novel and became very successful. She's dealing with this background looming anxiety of her past as an escort potentially like coming back to haunt her. And it adds some real tension to her arc. I also love the storyline of her being a ghostwriter and like not wanting anyone to know that it's her. By the end of the series, especially when she gets back with Liam, I felt like Annie had the most satisfying arc and she got the beautiful proposal that she most definitely deserved, including Adrianna. Adrianna was coming in at a close second because I felt like they both developed significantly since the first season. There was this really weird, Annie and Naomi have been running really in a good place. From season 3, 4, and 5, they have an amazing sisterhood. So I found it a bit strange when right at the end of season 5, they try and manufacture this fake drama between them. Naomi tracks down their biological half-brother Mark. For some reason, Annie doesn't want to know him and is completely opposed to having a relationship with him, which I found really bizarre and it made no sense. But Annie lashes out with some harsh insults at Naomi in episode 16. All it was, which made no sense to me, is that Naomi wanted Mark to stick around for longer. That's it. And she wanted to convince him to stay. And Annie's like, "Oh my God, you bitch, you slut, I'm not gonna let you hold him back." And she starts like throwing these horrible insults at her. Like, just because no one loves you doesn't mean, I was like, what's happening? Like, it went from like normal vibes between them to the fight escalating like so much, and it felt so way over the top for what was meant to be like a long-term friendship, and it was like one of the strangest moments in the season. And then Naomi was like, "Well, screw you, Annie. Maybe I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Maybe I'd rather have my brother than you." And then they just never talk about the fight ever again. And I was like, what? I love Annie. I think she's an amazing character, and the actress who plays her is truly incredible, and I'll always have a soft spot for her. Now, Silver. I despise this character with every ounce of my soul. Let's talk about it. Season 1 was the only time I could vaguely tolerate Silver because she had some redeeming qualities. One was rescuing Annie at the party so Naomi wouldn't catch Annie hooking up with Ethan. We learned that how she used to stay at a woman's shelter to escape from her mum's drinking, and she really has struggled to kind of deal with her mum's abusive behavior when she's drunk. But she still had a self-centered streak and very much not like the other girls' mentality. At least 4 times she mentioned that she is indeed not like the other girls, that she doesn't like pink. There was also that massive warning flag of her running a blog where she basically shits on people and airs their personal information out to the public. Also the weird grudge that she held against Naomi, and she was continuing to punish her for it. I have never seen someone in one season make so many comments about how she's different, how she's not like the other girls, how other girls aren't like her, how she's special, and how she's cooler than everyone else. Like, it honestly got really, really annoying, especially when she was airing her interest in film and cinema as if again that made her like superior to other girls. I also didn't like how she cheated on Dixon with Ethan kind of emotionally, and then she was always flirting with people. Like, why is she always flirting with people's exes? Why does she do that? She was always saying how much she hated Naomi and she had this grudge because Naomi treated her bad and betrayed her. But then in season 2, she becomes Naomi's like loyal best friend. And suddenly she's partaking in all the parties and all the girlier stuff, which to me made it really cringe then, because you compare it to her season 1 holier than thou attitude and it just makes it seem really disingenuous. And giving this whole speech about how she doesn't want to be popular in the season 1 finale. I'm like, girl, you literally are popular. What are you talking about? In season 2, it really started to show even more of Silver's true colors, which she was already annoying me a lot in season 1, keep in mind. A lot of the comments she was making, I was like, oh, shut up. Like, you're not better than everyone. Like, stop. But it really got worse in season 2. She got mad at Naomi for sending out Annie's nudes, but then forgave her literally instantly for it. She starts dating Teddy, and after the cute, adorable build-up they had, once they were in an actual relationship, it was shite. And they were constantly fighting and breaking up and having these dumb arguments over literally nothing. Then we get into season 3 and she hooks up with Navid multiple times and says she is into him while he's still currently in a relationship with her best friend Adrianna. Then, just to get back at Adrianna and rub salt into the wound more, she pretends to have really loud sex with Navid when they're on their vacation in Mexico just to further make Adrianna jealous. And then, if it couldn't get any worse, she goes after Liam in season 4, who is Annie's one true love, who Annie clearly still has feelings for. By this point, it just solidified her as like a total bitch, not a girl's girl. She even like tells Annie about how horny Liam makes her and how much she wants to be with him, and is just like, it's just so skanky. I can't, it's so disgusting. In season 3, I disliked her even more, not only because of the Navid thing, which is already so not girls of her to sleep with another girl's boyfriend, but it's the fact that she automatically ignored and invalidated Naomi's claims about Mr. Cannon raping her, and basically made out that Naomi was just doing it for attention. Then she was literally loving the attention Mr. Cannon gave her herself and like flirting with him. And then her story was that Naomi was upset because she got rejected and that's why she made up a lie. Like what? Why would you even say that? She had some good moments, mainly in her friendship with Teddy. They generally had a very good friendship and she supported him a lot when he came out. But even that left a sour taste in my mouth at the end when she forged Teddy's signature to hand over his parental rights when he said he'd be a sperm donor for her. I just don't understand why you would risk your friendship over that. Like at that point, it's fine, but just go find an anonymous donor because clearly like it isn't working and it's too much to ask of him. Somehow, even when it came to sleeping with Navid, Sylvia never faces any consequences or repercussions for this. In fact, after she slept with Navid, she's at this retreat, she hooks up with him, you know, Adrianna finds out later, Adrianna's devastated, and somehow everyone focuses on Adrianna and gets mad at Adrianna because Adrianna had a reaction. Why are we not blaming Sylvia? Not a single person raised an eye or actually held Sylvia accountable for the fact that she was basically whoring it up with Navid behind Adrianna's back. Everyone focuses on Aid and Aid taking the fall and Aid getting in trouble, and we just completely excuse Sylvia's awful behavior. And I'm like, sorry, but like if I was Adrianna, I think I would find that incident actually extremely traumatizing. Like, why is no one having any compassion for Adrianna and what she must be experiencing? Sylvia has a cancer scare, so she decides in case she isn't fertile that she needs to have a baby as soon as possible. At 19. I mean, it's just so unrealistic and it's just absurd. Then she hooks up with Liam, thinks she's in love with Liam, then she can't choose and they're both fighting over her like she's this incredible prize, and everyone's like hyping Navid up as like this perfect boyfriend. It's like, why? Navid cheated on Adrianna, how is he the perfect boyfriend? I don't understand, but they're like competing over her and fighting over her at a movie premiere, and it's like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm sorry, but why did Liam even like Sylvia? Like, he comes across as super creepy. He's showing up at her doctor's appointments with flowers, and I'm like, this is actually super creepy. Despite everything that she put Adrianna through, aka taking Adrianna's boyfriend, she starts dating Adrianna's daughter's adoptive dad, which was probably the worst thing that Sylvia's ever done, because she not only was thinking it was okay to not tell Adrianna, but she was very happy to like move to New York, start a family with this guy, and like raise Adrianna's daughter with him. Like, I'm sorry, how messed up in the head can you get? Again, she faces no repercussions for this. And in fact, she doesn't care. She thinks Adrianna gets what she deserves. And I'm sorry, but the guy, he wasn't it. He was too old. He was creepy. He was divorced. He was a professor. She was 19. Like, I'm sorry, what was she doing there? The only moment of that seemed even slightly like some sort of calling her out moment was in season 5, episode 18, when Adrianna calls her out for hooking up with Mark. Because basically, they both start realizing they have a crush on Mark, who is Naomi and Annie's brother. And they make a pact that neither of them will date him. And of course, because Sylvia is a bitch, she breaks the pact and goes and sleeps with Mark because she wants attention, right? And Adrianna calls her out. She's like, sorry, Sylvia, but this isn't okay. We made a promise. I've grown up since high school, and I'm not even being vengeful, but you haven't. You haven't grown up. And you chose to go after him, knowing that it would hurt me. Aid actually regrets some of her bad choices. She genuinely values the friendship with Sylvia. Genuinely. But Sylvia doesn't reciprocate this. She's the same backstabbing bitch she always was.
I could have done something to hurt you, but I didn't want to hurt you. Yet when you were in the exact same situation, you didn't even care about me at all.
And I hate how in season 5 they're trying so hard to tell us that Sylvia is like this goddess with like the whole naked photo shoot that she does, and then her getting into cabaret and like performing for everyone with all the feathers. She literally became the epitome of like the manic pixie dream girl. And then Liam's like, oh, Any guy would be lucky to be with her, just solidifying this idea that she's like untouchable perfection. I was like, I'm so done. The worst part for me was in season 5 when she feels emotional and she tries to make out with Teddy, then gets mad that he doesn't want to have sex with her. Like, I'm sorry, he's gay. You helped him come out. Ew, like, what are you doing? Navid tells her, sorry, but you're not ready to be a mom. You're too young and you don't have your finances in order. Like, why is she mad? He's just being honest with her that it doesn't seem realistic. The only thing I will say that gave me a bit of pity for her in season 5 was, I mean, I hope that in season 6 they would have redeemed her and that was the plan all along, but I doubt it. But in season 5, the thing that really did upset me genuinely was that Silver wanted to have a baby. Was it ridiculous? Yes, but also I'm down because everyone deserves to carry their own child. And Silver was very, very clear in her communication that she wanted the experience of pregnancy, of giving birth. She wanted all of it. She wanted to feel all of it, and she wanted to carry her own child, which is a beautiful thing that she has that like maternal instinct, right? And she wanted to be present for her child because her mum never could be for her. And actually one of the most heartbreaking arcs of season 2 was Silver losing her mother and caring for her dying mother and healing her relationship with her. And Silver was loyal. She was there. She was organized. She basically organized all of her mum's appointments for her. It was the only like good moment she really had in the series because she was like an incredible daughter. She broke her back looking after her mum, showing up for her, organizing her doctor appointments. She was there with her till the end. She was completely selfless in that whole arc. It was incredibly beautiful. And so all she wants to do now is to be able to carry her own child, right? What I hated is that Teddy agreed to be her donor, but then he essentially like stripped her of her own rights and bodily autonomy by blocking her from carrying her own child. He was like, okay, I'll be the donor, but you need a surrogate. You can't carry your own child. You're not fit. You're not well. Knowing her history of being bipolar, like it was evil. It was like beyond cruel. Like, okay, I get it. She forged his signature. It was wrong. But she only did it because he was treating her like shit and she was scared. He promised her he would help, but then he completely changed his mind and did a 180 after having a conversation with Shane, his boyfriend, completely ignoring the fact that this was Silver's one chance to be a mother and it meant everything to her. If you don't want to do it, don't do it, but don't force her to have a surrogate. Forcing that and deeming her mentally unfit is like, it's fucked up. I'm sorry. Everyone around Silver was acting like her wanting a baby was like this annoying thing. And Dixon was like trying to use actually her surrogate to become a pop star and ship her off on tour, which I thought was so messed up because that's Silver's surrogate, you know, and you should stay out of it. Teddy even was saying, I want to be involved. I want to be a parent, which I hate that he suddenly wanted to be involved because it's like, Teddy, what are you talking about? She was very, very clear that she wanted to be a single mom and she didn't want to co-parent. So you can't then step in and say, oh, actually, I do want to co-parent. Like, it doesn't make sense. And also, I hate that he was acting like it was unreasonable. If she wants to raise a child on her damn own, she can. That's her choice. Then she got really controlling when there was a surrogate and she was controlling what the surrogate did, what she ate. And everyone's so critical of Silver for being a bit too hands-on and being controlling. But I'm sorry, like, I would do the same thing. There was so much added stress. She was worried about her surrogate going off to be a pop star. She wanted to make sure the baby was healthy. And it was just beyond messed up. It was honestly horrible. Actually, now we talk about Teddy. At first, he was genuinely one of the most normal and non-problematic characters of the show. Like, I even liked him in his Playboy era in season 2 because yes, he was an asshole, but he was like entertaining. And, you know, in season 3, as his caring side came out, he became really, really popular. Even in season 2, when he started falling for Silver and genuinely falling in love with her and not wanting to be a playboy anymore, it was very, very like romantic. But then they retconned that and they made him gay in season 3, even though he genuinely fell in love with her in season 2, so it made no sense. But his coming out story was handled beautifully. I think, despite the fact that it made no sense, he was a very, very good character. He was very, very kind, very sweet, a good friend, very sensitive. And that's why I was so upset with how he treated Silver with her pregnancy in season 5. In season 4 and 5, Teddy not only is treating his best friend like shit, but he basically does nothing. He spends most of the time sitting and moping around about how he's excluded and how he's treated badly because he's gay. And Shane is just trying to control him and manipulate his choices. Shane was so bad for Teddy. I cannot believe this is his love interest. This was the worst boyfriend he's ever had. So controlling, constantly shaming him and adding in his input on things like Teddy donating his sperm, which has nothing to do with him and is completely inappropriate, and adding in his input that like nobody asked him for. He even did the same thing with Teddy's uncle's political campaign. He just inserts his opinion and like controls Teddy's decisions. Shane actually threatened legal action if Silver didn't let Teddy co-parent, which again I felt was inappropriate and just completely over-involved. It's neither of yours child, it's Silver's child. That's the point of giving up eggs or sperm. That's why it's a big deal, is that you release your rights to have any control over what happens to that egg or that sperm. That's the point. That's why you get paid to do it. I also hated it because if they want to have their own family and co-parent, they're both healthy. They have endless sperm. If they want to start a family with a surrogate in the future, they can. But this is Silver's one shot. I didn't like Shane. I didn't like how controlling he was and always giving Teddy ultimatums to try and force him into going along with his decision. I'm sorry, but it's manipulative and I don't like it. The show got so much better after Ethan left in season 1. It's honestly shocking. I think he's one of the worst characters we've had in like the entire show. I mean, he's not as bad as like Vanessa, for example, or, you know, Mark or whatever, but like he's pretty bad. He was so uninteresting. And he was completely spineless when Naomi and Annie were fighting over him, you know? He just left Annie to fend for herself. He also wanted to hide the relationship from Naomi. It was actually his idea to hide it from Naomi. And actually at a sleepover they had when they were still hiding the relationship, I don't know if you remember, but Annie ran up to give him like a hug and a kiss. And he sort of pushed her away so Naomi wouldn't see, and she was like, oh, okay. And that made me like instantly dislike him because it was gross. He had a terrible personality up until season 1, episode 15, when Rebecca Sinclair came in and she tried to give some more depth to Ethan's character. She showed that he was lost. She really fleshed him out. She fleshed out a friendship between him and Liam. She gave him a sense of humor, and she also showed how he doesn't know who he is because he's been dating since he was 15 years old. And that was the only time I liked him, was towards the end of season 1. If someone was going to be gay, I think it should have been Ethan, because he always seemed like he was overcompensating with women to try and hide for something. And yeah, him cheating on Naomi was trash. He literally cheated on Naomi by flirting with Annie, you know? And then once he gets with Annie, he can't even let Naomi go fully. You know, he wants to be there for her all the time. He wants to talk with her all the time. He wants to be there for her during her dad's affair, and he even bails on his date with Annie in order to do so. Then when things don't work out with Naomi, he cycles back to Annie again. Harry and Debbie were shocked to learn that Annie actually quit the school play because she wanted to spend more time with Ethan, which I wasn't surprised by, honestly, because Annie was really obsessed over this play. She was obsessed over doing it. She was obsessed over winning at the play. And Ethan made her feel like there was something wrong with her for doing that. He made her feel ashamed to have her interests. He guilt-tripped her over it. And after his accident, he turned into this holier-than-thou guy who was acting like Annie and her interests were beneath him because he was some sort of spiritually higher man who'd been through this accident and he couldn't relate to her anymore. Then he basically starts cheating on Annie with Rhonda emotionally. He has this whole awful storyline with Rhonda, who's this girl he hits with his car, and he starts spending a lot of time with her, even bailing on Annie to spend time with Rhonda, and very much developing an emotional flirtation and connection with Rhonda. Then when Rhonda naturally reciprocates and kisses him, he gets all angry at her and he says, no, I have a girlfriend, even though he knew exactly what he was doing by leading her on like that. Then she disappears, and suddenly Ethan catches feelings for Silver, even though he knows that Silver is Dixon's girlfriend. He starts flirting with Silver, and then he goes to kiss her. But honestly, he was a bad character. I know he went through an accident, okay? I know that he went through something like traumatic as well, but he didn't need to diminish all of Annie's interests and passions just because he was going through some cringe finding himself phase, you know? And he gave up on Annie so easily. I've never seen a more deflated breakup scene than the Annie and Ethan breakup scene. He was just like, yeah, I don't think it's working. Like, he didn't fight for her at all. Now we get into the parents, Debbie and Harry. I find these two interesting because they were my favorite characters in season 1 because they were really involved parents. They were controlling, but like in a natural way that you are with your kids. And Harry was always like overprotective because he loved his kids so much. It was hilarious actually how much he wanted to be involved in their lives. He was a really good dad. And then he dips out a season later and turns into like a negligent father, you know? And I was also really sad with how they butchered him and Debbie's relationship because they were such a good couple earlier on and they seemed really, really happy together and really in love. It's a shame too because I remember in season 1 there was that hilarious pot brownie episode, I think in the finale. They were all like giggling and paranoid because they got high on like, I don't know if it was the finale, maybe it was like just towards the finale. They got really high on pot brownies and I just remember thinking it was so funny. Suddenly, I think Rebecca Sinclair didn't like this couple. I don't know what was going on, but suddenly in season 2, Debbie and Harry are not in love and they're like fighting all the time. Harry's emotionally cheating on her with Kelly and lying about it. And Harry begins suddenly turning into an asshole. Like, he starts overruling Debbie's parenting, he starts emotionally cheating with Kelly, and he's always like being condescending towards Debbie and making her like look bad in front of the kids. In season 2, episode 8, Debbie has a mother's intuition that Sasha is sketchy, that she's lying about being pregnant, and that she's like a weird stalker. And she has a feeling that she's met Sasha before, and that Sasha already met her at like the salon and like introduced herself. And they basically had already met. Before she can fully explain her intuition around what happened and why she feels that Sasha's been watching them for a while, Harry cuts her off, invalidates her concerns, and makes really unfair parenting decisions. He made her feel crazy, and he constantly treats her emotions as an inconvenience rather than something valid. I really remember in season 2 how all the family scenes disappeared and we lost that complete sense of the family unit that we had in season 1. And I just absolutely hate how they butchered Harry's character, and suddenly he's like questioning every single one of like Debbie's, you know, feelings, and he's like overruling her decisions. Dixon gets in trouble. Harry like makes a decision to let him go to Australia, even though Debbie didn't know the bad thing that Dixon did, and he should have consulted her before letting his child go to Australia, because maybe Debbie wouldn't have wanted that. Like, he just starts making the decisions as if he like runs the show.
Annie, what's going on with you?
I'm scared, Dad. I know how much Sean means to you, and I'm really scared that you're never gonna forgive me for this, but I'm more scared that something is not right.
And you agree with her?
We don't think Sean is who he says he is.
They completely also retconned Debbie from season 1 to being this career woman, to being aimless in season 3 and 4, and not really having anything to do, and kind of looking for a job and not having any credentials, and just being like this stay-at-home mom who cooks all the time. It was kind of crazy. But all I remember in season 2 is it just being a blur of like not only Debbie and Harry's marriage falling apart, which is really tragic, but Debbie experiencing something really valid. It was the same thing with like Sean, for example, in season 1, where she had a feeling that Sean wasn't Harry's real son. And she would come to him and say to him, hey, I've got a bad feeling. I feel like Sean isn't your son. I don't know how to explain it. There's something weird going on. And Harry would just like overrule her. Same thing with Kelly. She said, I think Kelly's got a crush on you in season 2. She said, something's going on. And Harry's like, no, nothing's going on. But he's lying because he knows that Kelly likes him. So I just really, really hated it. Now, in terms of Navid, this is one of the things that annoys me the most out of everything in the entire show, because Navid was genuinely one of the best characters in season 1. He wasn't a fake nice guy. He was genuinely a really good guy. He was loving and he was kind and he was a good boyfriend. He was grounded, he was respectful. He paid for Adrianna's rehab to take care of her. He loved her. He was down bad. Part of what made Navid's character so beautiful in season 1 was the fact that he had this undying love for Adrianna, that he was a good guy, that he stepped in when he thought that Annie was dating a drug dealer in season 2, that he showed up for people when they needed him, that he was kind of sheltered compared to the other kids, so it made him easy to like, basically. That makes his next development all the more disappointing, because suddenly he just forgets about his star-crossed love for Adrianna, and he starts not caring about if he cheats on her or not.
Wait, stop. Can we zoom in on Silver? Oh my god! Liam and Annie just got engaged!
I always saw Naomi as a mean girl, but upon a rewatch I realized that she's not half as bad as people make her out to be. Like, even in season 1, she was so hurt when Ethan cheated on her, right? She was treated badly by everyone. Her dad used her, her mum neglected her and didn't stand up for her when she was being mistreated. She didn't feel like she had anyone. She became friends with Annie, genuinely warmly welcomed her into, you know, the school, genuinely saw Annie as a friend, gave her a lot of things, and then found out that Annie was seeing Ethan, her ex-boyfriend, behind her back. Like, she justifiably felt really hurt and vindictive and upset, but she's only vindictive because someone actually does something to her, you know? And same thing with like Adrianna in season 1. She tried so hard to be there and be sympathetic and be good for Adrianna and be her friend, but after a point she got sick of Adrianna lying about doing drugs, but she still took the fall for Adrianna and pretended the drugs were hers so that Adrianna wouldn't get into trouble out of loyalty for their friendship. Naomi always gets painted as the villain, but like she never really did anything wrong aside from bullying Annie in season 2. She tried so hard in season 1 to fix her parents' relationship and heal their divorce, you know, and get them together and get back to that happy family unit she always wanted. Actually, I think it's so funny how nonchalant and unbothered her mum's reaction is to the dad's cheating. Like, it's so funny. She so calmly is like, her name is Gail. Like, she doesn't care. She's like, I don't care. As long as I get my money, as long as I get my bag, I don't care. I don't want to know. Like, it's so funny to me how she just doesn't care. But Naomi's parents are a mess and she's constantly cleaning up after them and their bullshit, you know? And Adrianna was pretending to be her friend, but she was sticking around in season 1 and stealing money from Naomi to pay for her drugs, right? Naomi's character development from seasons 1 to 3 is fantastic, especially after she was used by Jen. She lost her ability to trust in people because she saw Jen not only as a sister, but as a best friend. And it turned out that Jen had slept with Liam, which, by the way, is like basically rape because Liam's like 16 and she's an adult. And she apparently had also slept with Ethan when he was like 14, which again is rape and grooming. And that means that Jen has always had a thing for taking Naomi's boyfriends to prove that she is better. So Naomi's been hurt in some way by everyone in her life. And so her character development throughout the seasons, even dealing with her rape, the growth that she experienced was remarkable. Like, if you look at how selfish she was in her relationship with Liam and Ethan, and you compare that to what a good girlfriend she was to Max, you can really see how much she grew. The fact that she even was interested in Max, despite him being a nerd and being in a different social group, showed that she really isn't that materialistic after all. However, from season 4 onwards, the show, as I mentioned, starts using her purely as a comic relief, and she regresses in that way, which feels really frustrating. For me, the best episode of the entire series was the season 1 finale, also because of the culmination of this angst between Annie and Naomi, seeing their friendship deteriorate, and also Naomi's reaction to thinking that her best friend betrayed her by sleeping with Liam. And to her, it didn't seem that far off, considering she knew that Annie and Ethan had had a relationship and she'd forgiven Annie for that. To me, it was just a brilliant scene to really see Annie also as a protagonist be tested and be broken down. It felt like Annie's whole storyline in season 1 had been building up to this moment of Naomi turning against her. And that's the thing is, of course Naomi was unreasonable. She basically confronted and accused Annie of sleeping with Liam. Like, she basically didn't even give Annie a chance to explain. But that's my point, is Naomi is very insecure. Like, beneath the bravado, beneath the outward exuberance, she can be really insecure. Like, she was a little bit jealous of Annie. She was jealous. That's why she behaved like that. And she always seems to be the one chasing the guy and the one who gets dumped the most frequently, and who always ends up being rejected by the men that she dates. She's the one chasing after Liam for so long, and he just continually rejects her. Like, she doesn't, you know, same thing in a lot of ways actually with Max, like where she's the one that pursues him. She's very insecure, and she even admits to it regarding the Annie thing, that maybe her own personal insecurities got in the way and blinded her a bit, and she should have listened to her earlier. Annalyn McCord is such an incredible actress that she eclipses every scene she's in. She gives Naomi so much character, stage presence, and she's honestly an icon and an incredibly well-written character. I still think that Naomi was an extreme bully in season 2, and nothing justified the way that she treated Annie. In season 3, it was great to see Naomi working against Mr. Cannon and crafting a spectacular plan to take him down, even though the first 1 or 2 went a bit awry. It was great to see her fighting back after what happened to her. Her dealing with the aftermath of her assault felt so real and raw. I also think that her relationship with Max came at the perfect time to kind of lighten the atmosphere a bit, and it was just a really fun addition. We also see her rebuilding her friendship with Annie and accepting the budding romance between Annie and Liam and not making a fuss out of it, which is why it was so frustrating to me to see her development just drop like that in season 4. Season 4 was rough for Naomi, and it honestly did her like a huge disservice, because Max comes back, dates her, breaks up with her because, you know, she wants Austin. You know, he starts $1 million company, and then he comes back to Naomi again after breaking off his wedding. And it all happened very, very rushed, all within 1 season. And Naomi was capable of like so much more. She could have been career savvy, just focused on her party planning. But instead, she spends most of season 4, you know, with these dumb romantic shenanigans, getting arrested because of some misunderstanding or just making jokes, or the whole sorority shenanigans. I got so much secondhand embarrassment seeing her and Jen like fighting over multiple guys. Then she starts dating Austin, and her chemistry with Austin in a way was better than her chemistry with Max because, you know, he was rugged, he was grounded, he could handle more things than Max could. You know, he fought really hard for her. He fought so hard for her. But the thing that annoyed me about Naomi and Austin, despite their insane chemistry, was the fact that every single scene between them was some sort of ridiculous, over-the-top banter or argument or misunderstanding. And I'm all for some romantic tension, but it was like every single scene between them was some Wattpad-coded, ridiculous insults and misunderstanding and fight, and it was just at a point where it felt really farcical and just completely over the top.
Had to bypass 2 roadblocks to get up here, so drop the attitude and tell me what happened.
I am stuck, you idiot.
Austin's sincerity and his true loyalty to Naomi, I think, really shone through in that van scene where he admitted his feelings. He actually seemed like a really stable, dependable partner who knew what he wanted. Unlike the mess that was Max, who would back out if he was like, oh, my parents don't approve, my parents don't like you, oh, you know, we need to divorce because you don't like my friend. You know, like, he was just too flaky, I think. I don't like how season 5 wasted Naomi's potential and she's reduced to just party planning, her stupid divorce with Max, her stupid relationship with Jordan, just chasing relationships with no direction. Who wants to be with that mama's boy Jordan anyway? He was like a loser. And then she started acting all clingy and insecure in her relationship with Max. And I was like, why are you worried he doesn't want you? The old Naomi would not have stood around and waited for him to like choose her. And she's so upset over her divorce. The fact he even suggested divorce, I'm like, I cannot believe he's suggesting a divorce. Like, this is Naomi we're talking about. You're just gonna give up and walk away? Like, let her do what she wants. And he's trying to make all these demands of Naomi, like, oh, I want you and Alec to get along. You guys need to hang out. You guys need to be friends. Stop telling her what to do. Just be grateful she's in the same bed as you. Like, what are you doing making demands of her? Like, and criticizing her for not being friends with your best friend. Like, get over yourself, mate. Like, it just annoyed me so much. And actually that gets me into the next section, which is about Max, because he pissed me off. I know I said in my last video that I loved Max, that they had the best romantic chemistry ever. And that's true, like, I do think he's a great option for her, but honestly, he pissed me off upon this rewatch. Like, I know that he's like her fated partner and the one she was meant to end up with. Like, apparently Annalyn McCord filmed a whole spoof ending where she ends up with Max and she posted it on YouTube. But like, I know she loved them as a couple. I love that she loves them. Like, there are some good things. Max continually respected and admired Naomi. You know, he wanted her beyond her body, and he wanted to know that she was, you know, really into him for him, but also he was judgmental. Okay, like, he made a lot of assumptions about her. He didn't want to date her initially and rejected her because he thought she wouldn't fit into his friend group and that she was like too shallow. You don't even know her. Sorry, but like, why are you judging her and assuming she's some sort of bimbo because she's blonde, you know? And she was embarrassed to be seen with him in public with a nerd, but he was equally embarrassed to be seen with her. That's why when they went to Mexico, they pretended he was her math tutor because they were like embarrassed to be a couple, which is fine. But I felt like sometimes he needed to like humble himself and realize who the heck he was with and not try and get her to prove herself to him. Like, first it was the Avatar thing, her dressing up as in a costume to impress him, but it felt like the relationship was just continually her needing to prove that she was good enough for him. And I don't believe that Naomi should ever have had to like prove herself to anyone. And like, I have mixed feelings because he showed accountability by admitting to cheating on graduation day so Naomi could graduate instead, and he said he just wanted to be good enough for someone like her, you know. But I don't like that, you know, she has to humble herself. Like, I get it, they love each other, he brings out a loving and like humble side of her, but I don't like how he ended things just because his parents disapproved and he didn't really like fight for it, you know what I mean? And it's just that him being of, I think my issue is not that if he loves her, of course he loves her and they're devoted to each other, but my issue is more so around him being a weak man and not really fighting for what he wants. Because I noticed it was the same thing in season 4 where he was engaged to someone and he knew he was in love with Naomi, but he sort of chickened out and he waited for Naomi to barge in and call off the wedding so he had an excuse to do it rather than just doing it himself. Like, Naomi was dropping tons of hints, but he still didn't have the balls to like call off his own wedding basically, so Naomi had to do it for him. And you know, that was already like a red flag to me because I didn't like the way he reacted after her pregnancy scare in like season 3, which is why they broke up. But it was also the fact that like in season 4 Naomi chose Austin over him, basically. That's why he broke up with her in season 4, because he said, sorry, but I'm not going to sit here and have you pine after some other guy. I think we should end things. Like, I don't think you should be with me unless you're sure. And that really worried me because I'm like, Naomi was full on in love with Austin while she was with Max in season 4. And I was like, well, what does Austin have that Max doesn't? Why does she want Austin? Does that mean that Austin's better for her? Because I feel like if she really was into Max, then she wouldn't have been pining after Austin, but maybe her sexual chemistry was just a bit stronger with Austin. I don't know, but like it worried me because it's like, if Max is apparently the man she's supposed to be with, then why is she having these crazy feelings for Austin? Like, was he man enough for her? That's my question. Because I like how respectfully he handled it when she had feelings for Austin. He didn't call her names. He said, you know, she was always his princess, but he just couldn't like stand by and watch her have feelings for another man. So he was very graceful about it, but so I sort of forgot about it. But then when they got married in season 5, you know, Naomi felt like she had to compete for Max's attention. Like she was competing with Alec, Max's best friend, and Max never stood up for her. Like Alec was there insulting her. Max never stood up for her. He just wanted his friend so badly. And then Naomi felt alone. Alec was bullying her and trying to blackmail her and make her look bad in front of Max. And Naomi didn't feel like comfortable going to Max because she was ashamed. She didn't feel safe telling him about it. And when she didn't tell him about it, Max made her feel bad for not telling him. But I understand why she didn't, because she was in an incredibly like stressful situation. But also I'm annoyed that Max left her there by herself to fend for herself. Like that's just not okay for me. But also he blamed her for problems in his business that were largely Alec's fault. Like she called in a replacement, right? A replacement girl to help. And it turned out that like Alec had wanted him to get fired from his job. So Alec had like initiated a whole thing to get Max fired. So it was all Alec's doing, and somehow Max still blamed Naomi for it and said she was too involved. It makes no sense. Then he prioritized work over their supposed honeymoon and went off to work on a business trip, and Naomi was way more graceful about it than I would have been. She was so understanding and so nice about it, and I was like, oh my god. And then, you know, in season 5, regarding the divorce, after that horrible thing with the business venture going awry, Max is just complaining about how he lost his best friend and how he feels sad because he felt like he had to choose between her and his best friend. I'm like, are you gay? Get over it. You're not in love with Alec. You can make other friends, move on. But also like, he wasn't even fighting for the marriage, even though the marriage falling apart was literally his own fault. And so rather than telling Naomi where he's going, he says he's on a business trip, but then he like ran away like a child to stay with his parents for a few days. And then he just decided he wanted to go back to studying again and thought he would run off to MIT without even consulting Naomi on like how she would feel about that. And Max acted like Naomi had isolated him. He said like, oh, now I have no one, I don't even have Alec, as if it's Naomi's fault that he was isolated. But if he's isolated and he only had one friend, like he did that to himself. Like, don't play victim. Alec kissed Naomi without her consent to try and make her look bad and blackmail her. And rather than Max protecting his girlfriend, he just basically took Alec's side and blamed Naomi for not telling him about the kiss, as if that was the biggest issue at hand. Honestly, I really liked Max and Naomi together in season 3 and 4, and to be honest, I really felt like the breakup was fabricated and forced by the writing, as opposed to anything that genuinely made sense and felt authentic character-wise, because this whole divorce didn't make any sense. Now we get into Ivy, and I'm gonna admit that like I'm not a big fan of this character. I mean, Ivy's introduced in season 2, and it's really a bad season for her. I mean, she feels like a randomly inserted character into drama we're forced to care about, especially her cringe crush on Liam. You know, like some early issues with Ivy were telling Liam that she didn't want anything serious, even though she did, just to try and appear like a cool girl. Then fighting Naomi over Liam, which was so not girl's girl, to try and get Liam. Then she complained about how Naomi always wants to look good for men, but she doesn't because she's like not like the other girls. But like as the series progressed, she stopped saying how she wasn't like other girls, and she became one of the more likable characters. I feel like I actually genuinely really started to connect with her and bond with her. And I especially liked her when she fell in love with Raj, because you could see how loyal she was, even though he had cancer. And it was just wild because she got married to him, she got widowed, and then she went off with Diego to Mexico at the end, and we never saw her again. And I felt like the whole episode where Raj died was phenomenal. It was really, really good, and you know, it was an incredible acting moment on her part. Like, her acting was insane. It was heartbreaking. But I think that her moving on to Mexico with Diego in like 2 episodes and not giving her time to grieve really, really undermined her character, and it really like barely showed her grieving process. I also really hated her mum, Laurel, who's a really strange parent. Like, the entire time she acted as if she was Ivy's friend rather than her mother. She slept with a minor, Oscar, who was literally a childhood friend of Ivy's, which is disgusting, and who then later got involved with Ivy himself and slept with Ivy, which is just gross. She wasn't honest about why Ivy's father wasn't in her life. She was just a terrible mum. Like, I was so relieved when she just left because I just found her so creepy and gross. But yeah, Ivy is a good character. She is actually loyal. She was way better in season 3 and 4 than she ever was in season 2. I mean, she was awful in season 2 and such a pick-me, and actually she became really likable later on in the show for sure. The final character I want to talk about is Adrianna. This is probably the worst written and most badly developed and most inconsistent character in the entire series. So, in season 1, Adrianna struggles with drug use, right? And so I think a lot of her crazy and vindictive and nasty behavior was actually influenced by the fact that she was high or on drugs most of the time, because I think it was like messing with her brain. But despite that, like, she wasn't a good friend to Naomi in season 1, and she was very, very jealous type, very jealous and nasty when Annie won the school play. And unfortunately, when she gets nasty and she gets jealous like that, she goes to really extreme measures to hurt people like Annie to get what she wants. And we see the same characteristic pop up in season 3 when she finds out about Silva having a relationship with Navid behind her back. She doesn't just get angry or cry or yell. She does something really extreme and really like manipulative. And she was even doing the same thing in season 5 when she was mad that Silva went off with Mark and was having a relationship with him. She pretended to Silva that everything was fine, but she wasn't fine. And she was starting to go behind her back and doing stuff. And I don't even know why she does it, but I think what makes me sad is that she clearly has a very severe like personality disorder or something she needs help for that the show never addressed, and they acted like it was normal, completely disregarding the fact that like in the season 3 finale she wanted to kill herself and she was hallucinating her dead ex-pop star boyfriend. Like, she was not okay. She needed help. I think the dramatic ways that she goes to seek revenge on people and she goes all psycho bitch mode every few seasons genuinely is not normal, you know, and I wish that like she got help, you know, because I don't think she's okay. One of the best early scenes she had was her coaching sessions with Brenda, who helped her build a lot of confidence with her acting for the play. It was great because it gave Adrianna something to do. It gave her development. She had a great chemistry between Shannon as like her coach and her life coach, and I'm sad we didn't get to see more scenes like this between them because I think it would have been a great addition to the show. But also Shannon could see that Adrianna was being abused by her mother early on and being forced into doing acting to pay the rent for the family when she wasn't really mentally able to do so, and she wasn't really passionate about what she was doing. And I wish they had fleshed out further what impact that had on Adrianna having a mother like that, because we see in season 3 when she becomes famous that she absolutely cannot handle it and she becomes very, very vain. Despite her flaws, Adrianna steals every scene she's in season 1. She was like the only one that I could look at, and I felt like she did an incredible job, and that's why she was meant to be killed off in season 1 episode 7 after her overdose, but they kept her on because the actress was so phenomenal. And I do feel that as her storylines got worse, the actress also lost a lot of enthusiasm for what she was doing, because I noticed heading into seasons 3, 4, and 5, she does this weird sort of underbite thing with her jaw, and she kind of does these weird expressions, and she seems more and more checked out from the role she's playing, you know, whereas in season 1 she gave major starlet energy, and I feel like that's because she was, like, the actress, I mean, was super into the script. Adrianna had a lot of potential early on. She was selfish, but she was also like messy and really interesting, especially her very cute relationship with Navid. But by the end of season 3, I felt like not only had the actress given up, but the storylines were just atrocious, especially the way that she chooses to get revenge when she finds out that Silva is sleeping with Navid. She goes insane, like she pretends everything's fine, but then she goes and switches out Silva's meds, which nearly kills Silva because she has a really severe bipolar episode, and it was just like an unforgivable and crazy thing to do. Not only was it insane, but it was just like really lazy writing. Also, there's this whole music theft storyline in season 3, which all of her friends hold against her and act like is a super big deal because she stole some dead singers' songs. But I feel that everyone's reaction, as if this was the most disgusting thing anyone's ever done, was completely overblown and out of proportion, because the guy was mean. He was undeserving of sympathy, in my opinion. I don't care if he's dead, he was horrible. And he spent his final moments torturing Adrianna, basically, because he was angry that she rejected on him because she was loyal to her boyfriend. So to be honest, I would steal his songs too. His songs were good. Like, everybody liked them. No one, like, you know, it really wasn't that bad in my opinion, and she didn't deserve to be blackmailed over it by her manager for as long as she was. In season 4, everyone's still super mad at Adrianna for switching Silver's meds and for the way she handled her fame, because she sort of lost all her friends in that process. So she also lost her agent and a lot of her fame. But this whole so-called redemption arc to me felt really forced and awkward, because she never really picked it up again and became successful and famous later. So we never saw that rise to fame again where she handled it better the second time around. It was just very lazily handled, where she makes a couple of attempts to release music again and become famous and do so in a more genuine way. But the way it's handled is kind of weird, because we don't know long term what the effects would be for her and if she can genuinely maintain fame in like a healthy way or not. Maybe she would have, but it's almost like the writers didn't know what to do with her, because she became almost a goody two-shoes, like mellow, a pushover, boring, and almost like a kiss ass. Like, I hate to say that, but she was constantly like hanging around the bar, begging for everyone's forgiveness, trying to do charity work for people. And it was just really cringeworthy to see her groveling so much for the forgiveness of these people, especially because Silver wasn't doing the same thing. Like, why aren't they both doing it, you know? And the thing is that even though she was bitchy in season 1, and in season 3 she was fame obsessed and annoying, and you know, in season 2 she was like, you can kind of selfish and manipulative, she still had that spark to her. She was feisty, she had that passion, she expressed herself. And in season 4 I felt like that spark was gone, and she was just like kind of wimping around and not really owning it, like being very apologetic, apologizing for breathing, you know. And I was like, come on, like, this is just lame. This is just lame. Like, how long are you gonna apologize over and over again for like the same thing? They really botched her and Navid. They somehow managed to make them not cute, and then they rushed a very cute reconciliation right at the end, but after not really establishing any romantic tension between them. I frankly don't know how she managed to forgive Navid either for cheating on her with Silver, because it was so disgusting. So yeah, it was weird, and I'm just sad that they dulled her down. Like, I get it. I get that she made mistakes and she needs to redeem herself, but you don't need to make her a wet dishcloth in order to do so and make her boring, because the OG Adrianna was never boring. And honestly, I miss her druggy phase in season 1, because at least she was compelling. She gave like Effie from Skins. She was really edgy and kind of, you know, she was very unpredictable. You never knew what she was going to do next. She was kind of unhinged, and that's what made her exciting. You know, that's what I liked about her. So they really did this character dirty. So if you asked me, where did 90210 ultimately go off the rails, I would say it was when Rebecca Sinclair left, because she provided so much structure, so much emotional continuity, and really like well-rounded character arcs that just made sense. So when she left, everything sort of spiraled, you know, a million things were going on at once. There was just no clear direction, and everything became about romance rather than about like family and friendship. The characters just became like caricatures of themselves, and you know, by season 4 it's like the writers had forgotten what story they were even trying to tell, like what the heart of the show even was about. And sadly it left a shadow of what could have been a really great series. And this is a very bleak way to end this video, I'm now realizing, but I was just so disappointed. But I will say that I still thoroughly enjoyed rewatching it. I'm glad that I spent the time making this video, because I feel like it's now a lot more concise and a lot more well thought out and logical than it was in just my initial kind of reactions and rants. But yeah, nothing else to say aside from Silver is the worst. And I would love to know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys for the next video. Bye guys.